Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Wednesday Night Motorsport at the GSRC. We've got a cracking combination for you to start with, and that is Toyota 86s at Brands Hatch before we move on over to Portimão for the third or fourth time in about 2 weeks for the GT4s, and they'll be having a standard 40-minute race tonight. But as I said, first we're going to start off at Brands Hatch. Currently the weather is treacherous for the drivers in qualifying. They're about to finish that, and then we'll be diving headfirst into the first of two races in the GR86s tonight. We'll be starting with a 15-minute sprint race, followed by a 25-minute feature with a reverse grid for the top 10. I'm Liam Banks. Alongside me, producing and providing co-coms, is Daniel Sa, as always, and we're thrilled to bring you this car track combination tonight. As soon as we saw the calendar, this is one that we were looking forward to. Confirmation there, 90% humidity. That is because it is in fact raining right now in qualifying. These are not the conditions we will see in the race. These are the conditions right now for qualifying. 32 kilometers an hour wind, just in case that wasn't tricky enough. You've got some pretty strong winds there to deal with, and a very low track temperature, so grip is going to be in short supply for these drivers, and it is currently Sam Chapman who is handling those conditions the best. He's gone fastest and is on provisional pole by half a tenth over Chris Whitaker. Pretty tight field. Pretty tight top four. Sam Chapman, Chris Whitaker, Stuart Ellis and Rhys Gosner, and then a huge gap down to Brett Barker and the rest, over a second between them. So those top four really showing their class in these vehicles. And because there is rain, the traction control has been turned off, so they have less assists than normal. They do that because the traction control behaves a little bit weirdly in the wet, so it can be hard to judge it. So race control made the call that tonight we would run without the traction control so that we can have some wet conditions. I do believe it will be dry for the race, but we'll have to wait and see to confirm that. That was a big slide from Brett Barker trying to control the rear of these cars. These are relatively oversteery, particularly for a saloon car. They really are quite oversteery. And I can't imagine what they're going to be like in the wet, but I can only imagine it's going to get worse as we see Brett Barker oversteer through the corner 7 there and end up off the track in the barrier, and Sam Chapman thinking he's done enough to keep hold of pole position. Lovely line there for Stuart Ellis if he's kept pointing straight, and indeed he has. Not too scared to get on the curbs there, which is interesting to see. Usually you'd avoid the curbs in the wet, but those look like they could be ridden. And here is the starting grid for you. We have Sam Chapman on pole with Chris Whitaker alongside him. Then behind them on the second row is Stuart Ellis and Rhys Gosner. In fifth place is Brett Barker, and alongside him is Ryan Tegel. There's David Christensen and Adam Lavis, and then John Baldwin and Brendan Whitaker at the back of the top 10. Behind them we have Schultz at 11 for Proctor alongside him. Then Sharp and Normanson on row 7, Gary Cousins and Dan Bartosh on row 8. Then it's King and McLeod behind them, and then Stride and Lavis at the back of the top 20. And then, just because 20 cars is enough, we've got 23 cars for you tonight. Adds Head, Koch and Newens making up the final three. So we've got a few of our title contenders at the top of the field, which is exactly what we would like to see. That's where we want them, battling for the big points so that any mistakes are punished doubly so. It's been a championship where very few drivers have managed to have a clean opening half of the championship. And as we finish that opening half, anyone that can go on a consistent run of podiums is likely to be in very strong contention for the championship at the end, because nobody else has managed to do that. Everybody has had results where they've just finished well down the order or even failed to finish. And this is a treacherous track for those of you that don't know it. Brands Hatch is an absolute classic. It used to host the British Grand Prix before it moved back over to Silverstone. And rumoured as recently as about five to 10 years ago taking the British Grand Prix back, but that's never happened. And indeed, I think it's a bit too small for F1 cars these days, but it's brilliant for other categories, including the GR86. It's an absolute classic for the British touring cars. And pretty much any car you race here that isn't the very, very fastest, you get brilliant racing with lots of jeopardy through many of the corners. The engines are roaring, which means they're about to go. The lights are on. And a rather huge wheel spin from Sam Chapman on pole there. Wanted to get the car all sorts of sideways before he decided he was going to move forward. Thankfully for him, Chris Whitaker didn't get a great start either. And it's actually Rhys Gosnell who's got the best start out of the top 4. And he's put himself into second place immediately, though he is side by side with Chris Whitaker as we speak. Going down the straight, he's of course in the green car. Whitaker is in the yellow car. And Whitaker trying to go all the way around outside, and you can see that might not be a bad idea because it is pretty damp out there, which means there's not going to be as much grip on the racing line, and you're going to see some funky lines with a lot of speed in these opening laps, and a lot of drivers taking it cautiously and building up a lot of speed as they learn the conditions and as the conditions improve, because as you can see, it does not seem to be raining, just left over wet from qualifying. Chapman's in the lead. Whitaker did in fact get back past Gosnell for second, so Whitaker's in second, Gosnell is in third, and Ellis is in fourth. Adam Lavis is at one spot in seventh. That's who we are on board with as we approach corner 5 as a gigantic pack. Biggest mover so far is Anthony Adshead. He's up 7 places, and Shane Newens, who is up 6 after starting at the very back of the field. I believe he didn't set a representative qualifying time on the basis of that evidence. Stuart Ellis looking very aggressive here. He's been the big loser out of the top 4, and I say the top 4 just because they separate themselves so much in qualifying. I think these are going to be the 4 to watch for the win, but he's got it wrong there, and he's going to lose 2 positions to Brett Barker and Ryan Tegel, who just goes screaming past on the inside, and no defense there from Ellis. Looked like he just got the back end stepping out, almost got onto the grass and had to handle it, and that's Adam Lavis going flying. Is it? No, it's Brendan Whitaker. Brendan Whitaker tumbling down the field. John Baldwin lost a couple of spots as well in that. Don't know if it was a separate incident or he was involved. Looked like Brendan Whitaker just carried far too much speed and went spinning, or perhaps there was a little bit of contact. We will have to go have a look and see, but not quite yet, because Chris Whitaker is putting the pressure on Sam Chapman as they go down the start-finish straight. Really interesting corner 1. Absolutely love this corner. It's a blind entry, but blind downhill rather than uphill, and it's so hard to get your turning point right and carry the right amount of speed so that you get all over that curve on the exit, although you want to avoid that wet patch because that's going to send you flying. And Whitaker did that really well. He's going to be able to launch up the inside, except Sam Chapman goes very, very defensive and keeps Whitaker behind him. Because of that incident with Stuart Ellis, there's a bit of a gap now from the 5th place to 4th. So Rhys Gosnell and Brett Barker are holding on to this pair. You can see them in your shot, but look at the size of that gap to Stuart Ellis, 2.5 seconds. And that's going to be a lot to overcome in a 15-minute race, given the pace we've seen for the guys up front. And this is just what happened to him. Oh, and he slows others down, gets off the racing line really well, does Ryan Tegel there. No, just wait. He was like half safe because most people aren't going to be that narrow there, but when it's the early laps, it's more dangerous than normal. You'll get away with that one from the stewards, but yeah, could have been close at that rejoin. As we watch Sam stride, he's up behind Anthony Adshead, who's now up 10 spots, was up 7, now up 10. So we're fair to say he'll be pretty pleased with that start, just overtaking half the field in a casual lap or 2. But he's going to have to work very hard if he's going to keep Sam Stride behind him, because he's looking very menacing there, and you can see because he's taking different lines, doesn't want to be feels like he'll be too close to Anthony Adshead, who sits right behind him. In fact, he's got through there, has he? Yes, keeps the car in control. Lovely move down the inside. Sam Stride going to come straight back at him. Might do. No, outside's not the right place to be there, he decides. He has so much more speed for that corner though. If he can keep it and not have to check up, he'll be able to get around him into the final corner. It's going to be on the outside. There should be grip out there. I'd rather be out there than the inside, and yes, he's got a door as Anthony Adshead, so he holds on to 10th place after a multi-corner battle with Sam Stride. And what this has done is brought Brendan Whitaker and Ryan Tegel into the conversation, and Tegel, I think Whitaker's going to have the next word to say. And he's launching up the inside. It's a late dive. Big dive. No, not able to get past.
Oh,
way too fast for Adshead. How has he held on to that?
He held on to that. That's a surprise. I was going to mention, you can see the water
just spraying off the back of these cars. There's no rain falling from the sky, but there is still standing water on the track, and that's why the majority of the field are on wet tyres. There were a couple, as Ryan Tegel manages to catch that slide, there were a couple that started this race on the dry compound. 3 guesses as to where all of those people ended up. Hint, it's the bottom 4. Yes, and it looks like Adam Proctor came in for wet and is still out. He's still in the pits right now, so I don't know if he's done on this race or not. Aiden Schultz was involved in an early incident because of that dry tyre choice. They thought it might come to them. Unfortunately, there wasn't enough grip, and he went around, and so he is now down in at P22. It looks like only McLeod is the car that is registering as out. It still technically have 22 cars in this session. Sam Chapman leading all of them around thus far. 5 minutes to a 15-minute session, so 10 minutes remaining, and he's put a 2-second gap between himself and Chris Whitaker in P2.
Yeah, he's doing an absolutely cracking job out there, particularly considering the pressure we saw him under at the start of lap 2 from Chris Whitaker. Looked like for all money that Chris Whitaker was probably going to find a way past, but instead he's just absolutely pulled away across the rest of the lap, and it's only lap 3 and he's 1.3 seconds ahead. That has dropped from 2, so he's had a bit of a mess everyone in the corners, but it's a comfortable lead, and you can afford to do that because of the time he pulled out across the last lap. And there you go, confirmation he was 0.6 of a second quicker than Chris Whitaker on the last lap, and quicker than Ryan Gosler, but not as quick as Stuart Ellis, who we mentioned dropped out of that lead group after he went for a spin. So he's recovered and he's got some really lovely pace in that car, but he's got a lot of work to do if he's going to trouble the podium positions before the end of this one, particularly given we are a third of the way through. Kurt Nommerson finds himself in the top 10, and we know from the conversations we've had with him that is his goal. He is top 10 finishes, so he'll be very, very happy with that and desperate to keep Baldwin, Whitaker and Tegel behind him, and if he can, try and get past Sam Stroud. So he's got a little bit of protection cars, and that's Nommerson going for a spin, so he'll be less happy now. And he won't be happy with me for the putting the mocker on in there, so apologies. He's dropped down to 14th. I think it's going to be 15th. Yeah, indeed, it is now 15th, but he's got a comfortable 10 seconds to Shane Newens in 16th, so he can't really drop any further, but the top 10 is going to be difficult to recover to from there, and that's doubly disappointing because top 10 means a reverse grid pole. So he, instead of starting first or second in the next race, he will be starting down in 15th as things stand. But there's plenty of time for things to go wrong. Ryan Tegel almost giving us a demonstration of that immediately as he gets 2 wheels onto the grass as he turns in and manages to keep hold of it. And John Baldwin just looking like stone there. If he's feeling the pressure, he's not showing it, is he? And this is Dale Sharp going side by side and getting overtaken by Sam Stroud.
I love the livery there. Tape and spray paint. It's
very real life racing, isn't it? That's the lifeblood of racing in the real world.
That's it.
There's cars like that.
So Chris Whitaker out at the front there has managed to close down that gap. Not exactly sure what happened to Sam Chapman, but Whitaker was fast there. So Sam Chapman with a 49.7, so obviously he's had a misadventure somewhere, and Chris Whitaker has managed to close that gap. Now, one of the things that these drivers will have to pay attention to is if anybody's driven driven through a heavy puddle before, you get what's called aquaplaning, which is where the speed of the car is causing the tires to not make contact with the surface of the road and instead skid along the top of the water. And in a car like the GR86, the tires are not the best. They're considered like a street sport or whatever they're called. And so what ends up happening is you actually get a jolt of feedback when you drive through those channels. And there's a couple of those channels that run across like a small river on some of the corners. And that's what's catching some of these guys out. So the really wise drivers tend to just lift a little bit when they go through that, and it keeps the feedback low. And therefore they can keep the car straight. And some of the ones that are pushing too hard and maybe don't pay attention will hit it with speed. And that causes a sudden jolt. And that's usually how they get a spin as Chris Whitaker tries to look on the inside there. Sam Chapman didn't quite do it. Luckily, takes the safer option, but now Reece Gosler and Brett Barker are in the top 5.
Yeah, a little bit naughty there from Chapman. Didn't really leave Whittaker any space. I'm not sure if he was fully alongside or just behind and moved over onto the grass as a bit of a precaution. But Chapman certainly leaving no space on the inside. But Whittaker's going to try and go around the outside at the final corner. There is grip out there. We saw that before. They're moving around the outside. They touch going through the corner. Chapman defends, and that's opening the door for Reece Gosler. They're going 3 wide down towards the first corner. Gosler on the inside, Chapman in the middle. Whittaker on the outside. Where do you want to be? I think you're going to want to be Whittaker. Looks like he's got a car length ahead, but the other two are going to go up. No.
He's got a slow.
Gosler's past Chapman. Gosler's past Chapman, and so Chapman's slow. He's going to get.
Well done.
It's going to be under pressure from Barker. Barker just drives on past before they even get to the hairpin. So Chapman loses 3 positions in 1.5 corners.
Yep.
Tries to fight back. He is around the outside. He has got his front bumper there. So we'll have the inside for the next corner. I think that'll be job done on Brett Barker. Brett Barker would be brave to tough this one around the outside, but he is indeed brave. Very, very brave. And he's going to be beautiful as he gets past Sam Chapman. And now they got another left-hand but Chapman's going to have to tuck him behind. He wasn't quite alongside, wasn't guaranteed space there. In fact, he would have just ended up in the wall, if anything, or putting Brett Barker in the wall. So he backs out of it, and that is Chapman relegated to 4th. Whittaker in the lead, Gosler in 2nd, Barker in 3rd.
Yeah, that was an absolutely rough procession there for Sam Chapman. But the other drivers around absolutely boxed him in. They put him in the center. He couldn't go left. He couldn't go right. Brett Barker ended up trying to shoot up on the left side along with Whittaker. And that ended up working for him because Sam Chapman couldn't adjust his speed in order for when they go on the downhill. So he ended up going wide. Whittaker managed to bleed up enough speed to stop him from drifting off into the gravel, which meant that he had a better entry into the hairpin just up top. So that's a really good job there from Whittaker, as Gosler as well. He really did show the bravery there, put his foot down, got up on the grass, didn't care, just thought if I hold the wheel straight, the wheels will go straight. They did, they paid off for him. And then of course Sam Chapman ended up going slower again on the uphill section, which allowed Brett Barker to go up on the inside and absolutely cut off the advance. Sam tried to do the inside move down towards turn 4. Didn't end up working, and now he's under threat from Stuart Ellis. So how the mighty have fallen. Started off with a 2-second gap out in front and is now currently fighting for P4 because Ellis really wants this. Dives down the inside. No, decides to take a safer option, and so Sam will hold on to P4 for now, but the end of this race is looming and Stuart Ellis doesn't seem to be going anywhere fast.
No, he's not. Well, he has been going somewhere fast. He's climbing up to the back of these front 4 from 2.5 seconds behind to being on the bumpers within a couple of laps. So he's got tremendous pace. Only man in the 47s on the last lap. So he is the fastest guy on track right now. And in fact, Adam Lavis behind him is the 2nd fastest on track. So Chapman's day could go from bad to worse because he might not just lose out to Ellis. He might lose out to Lavis unless he improves his pace. Just for reference, last lap a 1:50 for Sam Chapman, a 1:47.6 for Ellis, a 1:48.8 for Lavis, and before that he's at the fast lap of the race of a 1:47.7. So Lavis has got tremendous pace in 6th place. Stuart Ellis got tremendous pace. They're the only guys who have been in the 47s at all in this race. They are much faster than the top 3 right now. That's brave. Wasn't quite supposed to get past. Manages to get out of it though, so he doesn't send Chapman around into a spin. But you can see the intent from Ellis, and the intent is very much forward. I think partly because he knows he's got Lavis behind him. Lavis's gap, it was over a second. It's down below a second now. So Lavis well and truly making this a 6-car group for the lead of this race with only 4 minutes remaining. Not even that, 2 minutes remaining, apologies.
So Whittaker's still in the lead. Reece Gosler right there. Chris will be able to see a big neon green car in that rear view as they go real wide. They hit that wet patch on the exit of the downhill. Luckily they keep it straight, and that's where he's one of the, you really do have to pay attention there because the feedback will try and rip that steering wheel out of your hands. All 3 of them got hit with it. They did it well. And Brett Barker actually managed to gain some time slightly there as Sam Chapman just drops back 1 second. So there's a slight gap between the top 3 and then the following 2. Adam Lavis is there looming in the background as well. He's only a second out from Stuart Ellis there in P5, and then there is a 12.7 second gap to them. So it is a battle of 3, then 2, then 1, but with a couple of laps in the bank now, possibly all of these guys could join for one big fight from 1st to 6th. Time will tell. 13 minutes 50 on the clock.
That's Ellis on the inside. Chapman trying to pull off the move they tried last lap but bailed out of. Stays committed to it this time. They're side by side. The next corner is right-handed. So
that's
Ellis
Brendan Whitaker.
will have the advantage. Oh, it's Brendan Whitaker. He's gone off on the lead. So Gosler's in the lead. Barker second. Chapman now promoted to the podium places. Ellis fourth. Maverick fifth.
Yeah, that was Chris Whitaker. Sorry, my mistake. Let's have a quick look at that. What happened there? So Chris Whitaker comes down to the back section, and I'm going to assume he just runs a little bit. Whoa! Catches the slide, and unfortunately snaps it back. So hits the wall. Doesn't seem like too much damage, but did lose 5 positions. And that is unfortunate there for Chris Whitaker.
It is unfortunate, but he was the one in control of the car. He will be really disappointed with himself. The good thing is he'll get a second stab at the cherry.
There's the white flag.
Because he'll be starting from 5th place in the next race if he stays where he is, and we are on the final lap of this race. So one more lap for Chapo to defend from Ellis, and Ellis will be throwing the kitchen sink, the donkey, absolutely everything at Chapo as he goes wide in that corner. He's giving Ellis the inside line and a lot more alongside than he has been on previous attempts where Chapo's been able to close the door.
So
tries to go around the
risky.
outside, holds on there. Ellis leaves some good racing room, good respect shown between these two. Chapman's going to try and come back through the inside. Does get the move done. Does he know Ellis is able to carry more speed around the outside? I think we've seen a carbon copy of what happened to Chapman before, with Ellis going to be able to pull across and take the podium position from Chapo here. But Chapman will hope that he can get the slipstream down this straight and launch and move around the next corner. Do you want to be outside or inside? Make your decision, Chapo. Being pushed to the outside, he's going to stay there rather than tucking back under and getting a little bit of contact. Ooh, don't do that, Chapo. Not in the wet.
So Ellis is within his right to do that. There's a gap in a bit on that left side, so he is allowed to do that.
Oh.
But again, brave, putting it into the grass there. Sam Chapman is just trying to find that one chink in the armor that'll allow him to get past, but so far Stewart has done a really good job. A really good job to keep him behind now. So they're only coming up to a handful of corners left, 2 actually to be exact. We'll see if Sam Chapman can make an attack going down towards the final turn. He's a little bit far back, but there'll be at least a little draft as they come towards it. Sam's looking for that inside line. I don't know if he'll be able to take it. We can see Reese Gosler coming around to take the checkered flag. And it looks like Ellis has done enough.
Yeah, it certainly has. That's Gosler taking the victory. Barker in second. Ellis holds on for the final spot on the podium. Chapo in 4th after leading for the first 2/3 of the race. Then Adam Lavis in 5th with a really strong performance. Not quite getting the fastest lap, though. That was Reese Gosler, who jumped into 46s on the final lap of the race, even though he just saw Chris Whitaker spin off from the lead in front of him. Whitaker, while we're talking about him, finished in 6th place. Tegel in 7th. Sam Stride up 11 spots in the end into 8th place. Christensen in 9th. And John Baldwin finishes in the top 10. Behind him is Dale Sharp. Anthony Ashead finishes in 12th on 9 positions and the second biggest mover on the first race. Brendan Whitaker in 13th. Cousins in 14th. Robinson in 15th, and then King, Newens, and Coach make up the back of the field. And that was just the entree. We have the main course in a few minutes' time. I believe there'll be a warm-up before the feature race. Be interested to see what tyres people choose, because there will be a bit of time passage, and as you can see, parts of that track are pretty dry, but there are definitive puddles. So it's going to be a brave start on the dries, but given it's a 25-minute race, I don't think it'll be wet weather tyres throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, we'll have to see. There's a couple of cars just trying to finish up at the race there, just having to be a little too far back, unfortunately. You can see Tristan Koch just coming around the final turn there. And then we'll be able to get race 2 underway. So if we have a look at the time here, so what have we got? It is 11:47. We'll just see what time it shifts to. We'll get this one underway, and we'll probably get a good idea as to how much the track is dried. So 11:58 there for the warm-up. So we've got 3 minutes to kill as these guys just get used to the track again.
Looks pretty dry out there, but these weren't the worst spots during the race. You can see in the pit lane, still a bit of moisture around. I'll have to wait and see what the rest of the track looks like. It'll be actually interesting to follow a couple of cars as they go around for this warm-up. Usually we just talk rubbish during the warm-up, but we've actually got some intrigue here. I wonder if any drivers are going to whack on the dryers and see how it feels during this. Be a good time to do some recon. See that corner? It is dry. Oh, well, there is spray, so it's not fully dry, but it's fairly dry on the racing line, but way dry offline. So if you're on the dries, you're not going to be able to overtake. So as soon as you go offline, you're going to lose the heat.
Adam Lavis here is on the dry compound tyre. So you can see he's just doing a softer out lap. Oh, well, one person went for an adventure. That would be, if that's a Bailey-led entry, that's orange. My brain tells me that's Christensen. David Christensen.
Remember, he's way better than mine.
I've started to allocate the colours to the guys in the team. So nice. Adam has the darker green. I believe Lavis has a lighter green, I believe, or it might be the same. I can't remember. Christensen has the orange. Woodsy has the dark blue. Joe Baldwin, club president, has the stealth livery. It's black, and I want to say Bodiatis has blue as well. I think it's a lighter blue. I think. I'm sure someone will correct me if I got any of that wrong.
So, what tyre are you starting on, Daniel?
Sorry?
What tyre are you starting on if you're in this race? You going dry or wet?
That's a good question. So, because of how loose this car is, I mean, I would do outlaps to try and figure that out. Dale, that's right. Dale Sharp is red, and Gary's blue. So thank you very much, Shmitty. Yes, I would go out and do some laps just like these guys are doing here in the warm-up and try and ascertain how much that car is moving to determine which tyre I would start with. What I'm seeing on the track, based on the amount of water that's coming off the back of that tyre, the dry tyre is probably safe, but you'd have to drive with a little bit more care and consistency, because the track would come to you, because we've got a longer race. It's a 25-minute race, I believe, this one. Is that right? It's 15 and 25?
It is.
So the race is going to come to you. That's what you want to avoid. So the race will come to you, and the track will come to you as well, as long as it doesn't rain again. The sky looks pretty open, which is actually rare for England, but in any case. So the dry tyre would work out, but you would have to take the first laps very easy, considering you'd be following cars, and therefore you'd be getting a lot of spray, and that would be a little bit distracting, not to mention it will affect your aero as you're coming into some of these corners. So until those tyres get up to temperature, that would be a problem. The other thing to note is, real quick before we go into the grid, they actually mentioned that in the latest development update for iRacing. If you haven't seen it, you should read it. It's a good read. They have spoken about how normally cars will have a formation lap in order to warm up those tyres, and how they don't do that in iRacing because then it gets them into the race quicker. They have addressed that, and they will be looking to update it so that all cars will be starting with warmed up tyres, which is done in a math way to make sure that it's accurate to the place that they're at and the temperatures and whatnot. But the idea is to have better starting conditions for those races where you don't get a formation lap.
Yes, I did read that, and it's. I think it's a really good change. It'll be really good, and it will save, particularly for the official races. There's a lot of carnage on the first laps, and it should reduce that. Hopefully, we'll get carnage on the first lap here, though. Particularly not for Jordan Baldwin, because he is starting on pole, and he'll fancy his chances of turning this into a podium finish. Christensen's in second, then Estrada and Tegel on second row. Whitaker on the third, alongside Lavis. Then it's Chapman, Ellis, Barker, and Gosner for the top 10, and we are go. Baldwin is starting on pole. He's got a brilliant start, exactly what he would have been dreaming of in his head in that beautiful black and gold livery. Christensen already lost out to Sam Stride, who continues his forward momentum from the last race. We saw Stuart Ellis, Adam Lavis, and Sam Chapman going side by side there. We've said that a couple of times. We're going to say it a few more times before the end of this season. Sam Stride has got David Christensen alongside him. Christensen's going to have the inside here, but as we've seen on the outside into turn 3, you can make it work, you can hold on, and then you get a better run through to turn 4. Brendan Whitaker's starting his move up the grid. He's up in 12th. Ryan Tegel, the big loser in the top 10, he's down 3 spots, and we are on board with Brett Barker, who's just been relegated to 10th and is currently looking at the back of Reece Gosner. Stuart Ellis and Ryan Tegel even. Barker back up to 9th, so he's got Gosner alongside him, just out of shot, but he'll have the inside for the next corner. In fact, he's already got a car's length apparently, because he just pulled all the way over to the outside. And yes, Lawrence, this is race 2, 25-minute, and we're in reverse 10 top. Reversing the top 10 from the sprint race for the starting grid. Then Christensen's got ahead of Baldwin, so I think Baldwin's made a mistake in that corner because Christensen is now in the lead when Whitaker is in third place. He'll want to get to the lead early and try to put some distance between himself, Chapman, and Lavis and Ellis, because he saw the pace those guys had last time, and I wouldn't fancy my chances of getting past them, even if I am a Whitaker. As Ross Tegel, I thought he was going to go for a big move down the inside sides against it. It's not a great overtaker spot there because the camber of the corner, you're putting a lot of trust in yourself not to understeer, put it that way. If you try and go up the inside there as Whitaker moves into second place ahead of Baldwin, and Baldwin diving straight into the pits. So Baldwin's had enough. He's decided he wants the other tyre, I believe. So we just thank you very much for the quick work there, Daniel. And we've got the tyres there for you. So Baldwin did start on the wets, other started on the slicks, and he's decided it's already slick conditions. Whoa! He's just going to lose out. Whoa, that is very, very wide there from Sharpie. And he manages to hold on and get it back towards the track, but he's lost out, and it's going to be at the back of this field, essentially. Not the same starting positions as race 1. It is a reverse grid top 10 from the finishing position of race 1. So, for instance, we saw the win go to Gosner. Go to Gosner, yes. And he started 10th.
So John actually had a drive. He had a drive through because he jumped the start. Fair enough. So it's not that he regretted his tyre choice because it seems like he's come out on the wets again. But yes, he came in because he unfortunately jumped at the start, which can sometimes happen when you get that position through a top 10. You kind of get nervous based on the faster cars behind you, and you just slip up, and unfortunately get a little bit gun happy.
Yeah, we just watched Stuart Ellis in shot there, getting past Adam Lavis. Adam Lavis now under pressure from Ryan Tegels. Going to get it from bad to worse for Lavis.
Oh, that was such a good move on the inside.
Yeah. If he was in track limits, not 100% sure he was, but I'll tell you what, it was ballsy, wasn't it? We haven't seen anybody else going for a move like that there, and he's got a really good run out that corner. This will be easy around the outside. There's plenty of grip out there off the racing line, and in fact, he's going to have a car's length before we even get stuck into corner. And Lavis on the inside with his last grip tries to carry the same amount of speed. There's not enough traction there, and Brett Barker muscling his way through as Lavis tried to come back towards the racing line towards the inside, and Brett Barker said, no thank you, I'm already here, you're going to have to stay out wide, mate. And good move there from Lavis trying to get back up the inside, heading towards the hairpin. He's going to have that done. But now, as we've seen, if you can hang on around the outside of the hairpin, you'll have the inside for the next corner and you can maintain this battle. But the outside for the next corner is actually where you want to be. But Brett Barker's done such a good job that he actually pulls ahead of Lavis and will hold on to 7th spot. A fantastic racing there from Barker and Lavis and Ellis as well, who initiated all of that. He's got Chapman ahead of him. So just to catch you up on the top 3, it is Christensen, Whitaker, and Stride. Then it's Chapman and Ellis. Ellis, the lead car on the wets, which is very interesting because he's keeping pace with these guys, but he's certainly not. He's not putting on heaps of pressure, which makes me think we are right at the cutoff point between wets and slicks. And those that are on slick, I believe, have got it right, and those that are on wets may suffer because they're going to have a longer change the tyres.
He kept it.
Just about, and that's Lavis getting through on Barker. Barker about to come back through. Is he? It's going to have the outside of Brave. No, in fact, he's going to lose it.
Look at Gosner shoot up there as well. So this is actually beautiful. Really textbook. What you're seeing is some of the struggles that you're seeing are your brain, when you are driving a race car, is hit every apex. And the problem with these is if you're running the dry tyre, the apexes are where the water dries the slowest. All the water gets pushed out onto the track and it pulls up on the apexes because the ripple strips are elevation, and the water will fall into that into the depression between the track and the ripple strip. And so what happened was, in that previous lap, Adam Lavis tucked on the inside and the tyre went into the sitting water that was on that apex, which is why he wiggled and ended up losing that position. You've got to keep that in mind. And so sometimes it's better to give up that inside because you know that they're going to be less stable coming out of the corner. But other times, if they can actually manage it, it will work out like it would in a normal corner. So it's a 50-50 call. It seems to... it's Costa. You can see and that's what I'm talking about. The cars, they're so tail end happy already, and now you're adding water. So they really, really have to keep in mind that as long as there is water on the track, that effect is going to be larger. And so Gosner just lost the position for that. Brett Barker managed to take it back there. Laver seems to be doing a really good job at the moment because he's kept a decent gap between him and Barker behind, but he is also losing out to Teagle in P6, so he's got to pay attention. Yeah, Gosner just does not care. I don't think he's lifted his foot off the gas this entire time.
Yeah, there's a few drivers out that corner definitely feeling every lap like there's a bit more grip and they can push it a little bit harder and then they just go over the limit and just completely unsteering off the track, but they've worked out they can afford to do that and keep going. It's one of the things, the drivers that do practice a bit, even if they only do one session, what you'll do is you'll push at corners and you'll figure out what corners you can push at and keep hold of the car, and which corners if you push at and go a little bit off, you're going to struggle to keep it on the track, or even pointing it halfway near the right direction, so that you know during the race where can I go looking for time, where can I actually really test the grip and be a bit safer, where do I need to drive within myself a little bit just to make sure that I make it round. Classically, blind corners are an example of places you generally won't push as much because you know it's harder to get right, so generally you'll leave a bit of time there in a race run compared to say you're qualifying, and then really push at corners where you've got a really clear view, they're fairly simple, and you know if I go too far on the outside because I carry too much speed, I'm actually going to be okay. I might lose a bit of time, but I'm not going to send the car flying into a wall. And not a good exit there from Whitaker. It's going to put him under pressure from Stuart Ellis, who is doing a magnificent job on the wet tyre. He's the only man on the wet tyre that has made it work, and he is running at the same pace as these guys on the dry. I'm not wholly convinced the dry is the best tyre to be on. Just because of the pace of Ellis, but I think it is close enough that Ellis hasn't been able to make it work in the first few laps to have enough of a delta to get past, and now he's going to start suffering and he's going to have to make a pit stop and change tyres where the other guys won't have to change tyre. So I think the wet might have been slightly faster tyre to begin with, but not fast enough to make up for the extra time on your pit stop when you do have to pit and change your tyres. As we watch from the rear camera of Chris Whitaker, you can see how aggressive everybody takes that curb, because if you don't take it aggressively you just lose so much speed.
Yeah, I was trying to just get a glimpse for those watching at home as to how much the tail end moves on these cars, but the thing is, for the one lap that I do that, Chris Whitaker decides to not take the corners as fast as he's been taking them some of the other times. So that was actually very, very steady from him. You'll probably see as they come down, so they cross the line and come down the hill, just take a look at where the water is sitting on the left side of the track. Now, if you go a little bit too far, just watch the chassis. No, he actually nailed it that time. Usually he hits the water just as Ryan Teagle actually went way far as they came around there. So yeah, it goes through the inside. You can see just a little bit of water shooting up from the back of that tire. So as they're doing that, they're obviously drying that line, and eventually it will become as dry as the rest of the track. There's a little bit of a snap there, but Chris is experienced enough to be able to catch it. Stride's going to try and take the advantage around the outside, but that is not where you want to be coming into this corner. He understands that, gives him a little bit of a tap just to let Chris know that he is in fact there. And Seb Chapman's also managed to close in, so this is most likely going to be a battle of three as Seb Chapman will look to try and shoot up on the inside. Stride will have to give him the space, which he does. Very good. Just
no extra space. Very, very close to contact and very close to the white line. You do not want to be on that white line. The paint is death in the wet at many places. And Chapman trying to go all the way around the outside of Stride. He's going to get it done though. Is he? No, Sam Stride's going to have the inside here, and there's no way Chapo's going to hold it on around the outside, is he? Is he? No way. Not around this corner. He's trying it.
Oh, he's done. Oh, this is good. Guys, to go for the switchback now. This is excellent driving from these two. Gets a little bit on the grass, no harm, no foul. And puts in, so that's a great job there from Stride to be able to maintain that position. But Sam Chapman did take that to the edge, and unfortunately, the grip was not on his side. Now, the benefit, of course, is a 25-minute race. We've only hit 10 minutes, which means we have 15 left. Christensen is doing a really good job out the front there. He's got a 0.6-second gap to Chris Whitaker in P2. Hopefully, Chris will be able to keep it on the black stuff this time and not go for an adventure too far off towards the end of the race. And as far as Chapman goes, he's going to try and shoot up on the inside. I wonder if he'll be able to stop the car in time. He does. Well done. And he'll take that position, P3.
Yeah, and see how he drove all the way to the outside on the exit of the corner, because he knew he had the car's advantage there. Knew that Stride wasn't quite alongside him, and he wanted to make it known that the inside was going to be closed for the next corner. So that's just a little bit of aggressive defense there for Chapman to say, no, don't even think about it. What can happen is if you leave the door open, you're almost inviting the other car to make a move, and you want to dissuade them of that and let them know, yes, I know you're there, but I am defending, so if you try and do anything there, it's not going to work for you. And Chapman, we saw in the first race he's got pace, but there's 1.8 second gap now from him to Whitaker, and Whitaker's really starting to close in on Christensen. Christensen's just done a fantastic job out front, but that gap has closed down for the first time this race, and in fact they're alongside each other, and Whitaker going to have the move done here. Christensen tries to hold on around the outside, does what Chapo did, then just tucks in for the next corner. I don't think you can hold enough pace around the outside just because it's such a further line. That just the difference in distance alone is enough that you can't hold on. And look at what these two battling has done. It's brought Chapman and Ellis Chapman and Stride right into this battle for P1.
Oh, Christensen's coming into the pits. Pitting. Yeah, okay, so he's getting his pit stop done now. So he'll drop a significant amount of places in the hopes that the undercut is more powerful than the overcut. That's going to allow Whitaker and Chapman to go straight past. But Sam Stride is right there. So Chapman can't really rest at all as they make their way up towards turn 2.
Yeah, I don't think there's many drivers that can rest on this track right now. Everyone pretty much in a battle, and with the conditions so treacherous, the mistakes we're seeing are costing you more time, and they're happening more often. So a gap of 2-3 seconds is not as big as it would be in the dry. Right, that's more like a gap of a second in the dry. I think half it in that your equivalent dry grab. And that's someone going off in the background. I think that's Brett Barker, who has the fastest lap of the race. So he was showing tremendous pace, but getting it wrong there.
So he rejoins here just ahead of Gary Cousins, and it looks like Gary Cousins also went for a slide. And yeah, the gaps have really started to expand now. So only 4 cars in close proximity of others. Everyone else is way out past that 1 second mark. Sam Chapman is the closest one up the front here. So Chris Whitaker, Sam Chapman, Sam Stride, that's your battle. First, second, and third. I wonder when the first of these 3 will come into the pits to get that fuel stop. I don't think you can go all the way to the end without a stop. I don't know if you can save that much fuel. Chris definitely doesn't do that because he's more of a flat to the floor kind of guy.
He certainly is. He certainly is. And I think, judging by the fact that others have been able to stay with him pace-wise, I don't think anybody is fuel saving to get to the end. The interesting thing is that you do use a bit less fuel in the wet, so that will have helped. So if anybody was thinking about going for it, the wet will have helped them to do that. Although, given it wasn't fully wet, I don't know how big a benefit that would be. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Whitaker and Chapman when they do pit and where they come out in relation to Stride and Christensen. Looks like Stride's going to come out pretty much alongside Christensen. I'll cover that as soon as we get confirmation on the timing stream. Yeah, it comes out a second ahead of Christensen, but with less pace. So they're almost neck and neck. Chapman is chasing down Whitaker, and keep in mind he was 2-3 seconds behind a couple of laps ago, and last lap was over, well, just under a second faster than Chris Whitaker. So Chapman definitely the faster of these two drivers over the last couple of laps. Will that hold, and will he be able to get past Whitaker? That's another question. As Murray Walker once said, catching is one thing, overtaking is another. I say Murray Walker said it. I think Walker, Brundle, every commentator has said it at one point or another.
Yeah, that is a known Walkerism. No, Murrayism. Murrayism? Yeah, that's what they call it. Murrayisms. So, 14 minutes, 47. 10 seconds away. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, interestingly, those on the wets that have pitted have switched to the dries.
All right, so closest battle right now is Sam Stride and David Christensen. They are driving up towards Adam Proctor here in P8. Adam is trying to make that car as wide as possible. It looks like a Minion, actually, with that color yellow. Sam Stride will hold this inside line here. David's got to tuck in. Look, geez, that's a big apex there for Proctor, but he managed to keep it straight. So play on, son, as it were, as they come round. Yeah, you can just see, you know, just a little bit of water coming off that left side. So there's some water sitting around on the track, but it isn't significant enough to cause too much of an issue now. You can see the majority of the field are on dries. Stuart Ellis is still on wets, as well as Shane Newens at the back.
And that's Chris Whitaker exiting pit lane at the back of that shot. So these two getting held up by Proctor has absolutely gifted Whitaker and Chapman the sole lead of this race. Remember, the four of them were in a four-car battle pretty much before the pit stop. And now, look at that, the miles behind Proctor, getting a little bit argy-bargy with Sam Stride there. Or maybe rather the other way around, Sam Stride trying to go up the inside and giving Proctor a little bit of the nudge.
Whoa,
and he's going to get frustrated. That's him going
no!
for a spin.
So that's really unfortunate there on David's part. And the reason why he spun is because he saw a gap forming on the inside here. And then Sam came across and see, that's the water I was talking about on the inside. You have to be really careful with that. And so he saw that gap, thought that it was a good idea. Sam tries to come across a little bit. David overcorrects, hits the water. It forces the steering wheel further, and he ends up spinning. So he goes down at the P8. That's an unfortunate run for him because he was doing really, really good out at the front there. Still in the top 10, though, so nothing to scoff at. But yes, as he gets back on the track, it's that water that piles up on the apexes and exits. You really have to be careful of that because cars do not generally run on those lines, which means they're going to be the water's going to be there for longer. And when basically the rule of thumb with water is that the amount of input you have, right, times it by about 0.5, and you're going to get more of that again. So that's why you got to be really, really easy when you're going into those corners.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing the rest of those that haven't pitted now pitting. That includes Chapman, Brendan Whitaker, Adam Lavis, Stuart Ellis. Be interested to see what tyres he comes out on. And Adam Proctor gets out of the way of those two, but it's far too little too late for them. Their race, it hasn't been ruined. Everything that happened there was legal. Proctor was in his rights to defend him. At the end of the day, he's costing them time, and he might be able to come back at them on the next instance. Proctor doing absolutely nothing wrong. You can argue whether it's smart to try and keep cars that are potentially not in your race behind you. But I don't think Proctor lost too much time there defending. It's on the others to find a way through. So doing the right thing there. But what it has done is change the makeup of this battle for the lead, because now it is Whitaker and Chapman, and they've got a 3.5 second lead over Sam Stride and Brendan Whitaker, who's done a magnificent job ploughing up the field, overcutting about 5 cars.
Yeah, so the interesting thing here is that Chris Whitaker's pit time in the box was 8 seconds. Sam Chapman was 8.92, and that is exactly the gap of these two cars. So Chris Whitaker has played this really, really well. Sam Chapman, just because of that longer pit stop, it has to be content with P2. Now the question will be, can Sam Chapman gain up enough pace over the course of the next couple of laps, or handful of laps I should say, to be able to bring down that gap and possibly overtake him for the lead? Time will tell. Sam Stride is 3.7 seconds down the road, so unless either of these two make a large mistake, Sam Stride's going to have to contend with P3. Having said that, as you pointed out, Brendan Whitaker is there in P4, 9 positions gained from the start of this race. He is within attack range, and if I am correct, yes, he's already had a pit stop as well. It was a 7.2 second pit stop, so it looks like he is fuel saving more than some of the others based on that pit time. So yeah, P3. Sorry, go.
He pitted. He was one of the last to pit, right? And this is what's really interesting. But you talking about those pit times between Whitaker and Chapo leading 2 at the moment is that Chapo had a longer pit time, but he pitted a lap after, so he should have had a shorter pit time. Yeah. Right. So either Chapman's got a lot more safety fuel, and Whitaker is going to be running the thing bone dry at the end of this race, which is interesting because as it dries out, they're going to be using more and more fuel per lap, right? Or Chapman didn't hit his marks quite right.
True. Yeah, that might have something to do with it as well. And as we were talking there, Brendan Whitaker did manage to make that overtake and go into P3. So, Sam Stride moves down into P4. He's got a nice buffer there, 5.8 seconds down to Stuart Ellis in P5, who is still on the wet tyre. He came in, he pit, he stayed on the wet. You know why? Because it's quicker to do that than it is to actually change over all tyres. So I applaud him for the commitment, but I cannot imagine the pace is going to be there with him. Because as this gets drier and drier, that tyre is absolutely going to fall off. David Christensen is looking to try and make an overtake on Brett Barker here for P7. They almost come together, but they did a really good job there to not. Also, I've just realised that Brett Barker is running an STI livery, which is technically correct, but it isn't. Because although this car is identical to a BRZ, and it is powered by a Boxer engine, there's a Toyota badge on the front. So, small things.
So it makes you uncomfortable, I get it. We've got just talking about the comment that we saw there. Thank you very much to everybody that is watching. Kurt Normanson in the top 10, which we know is his goal. Go for it, Kurt. He's got a Dale shot, 0.7 of a second behind him. Not saying I've got having favourites, but I would like to see Kurt finish in the top 10 because he always comes in as a chat and it's a lovely guy. And then we've got, I mean, Dale Shop's lovely as well, so nothing against him. So he'll be defending for the rest of this race and he's 3.3 seconds away from Cousins, so he's got no chance of putting a bit of a buffer between him. And remember, in race 1, he made it into the top 10 and then went for a spin and finished in 15th. He's got back into the top 10. He's got to hold on to it this time. This is Adam Lavis going for a move on Stuart Ellis. Stuart Ellis not running at the pace of the guys ahead. He's in the high 1 minute 40s. Adam Lavis did a 1:38.7 on the last lap, and the guys at the front of the field did 1:39s. Chapman then 39.4, Brendan Whitaker 39.1. Interestingly, Chris Whitaker the slowest of those three at 1:40, and that is a big gap. So either Whitaker's backing Chapo into his brother, or I can't imagine that's happening because I know how much they like to beat each other. So I imagine Whitaker just not quite with the pace of Sam or his brother at the moment, as Adam Lavis puts on a really nice move there on Stuart Ellis. He's got the advantage of the dry tyres, and I should see him drive clear of Ellis. And I think the job for Ellis now is to finish in the top 10.
Good move there from Lavis. So he'll now look to try and chase Sam Stride. Probably knows that he won't be able to. Oh, that's a car parked on the side of the road. That is Dan Bartosh, who seems to have had some significant damage. Let's have a look at what happened here. The boxing kangaroo on the front. And yeah, that's too far, Chief. Oh, that's a big hit. Wow, he broke the front left suspension. Oh,
yeah,
boy.
it certainly did, with a head-on hit as well. And you know what I was saying earlier about when you practice, one of the things to look for is the corners you can push in. Yeah, that's not a corner you can push in.
Yeah.
Anyone that's been a bunch of laps around Brands Hatch will tell you that is not a corner to go off at.
Hashtag negative camber.
Yes, certainly.
Wait, negative camber? Positive camber?
No, it's positive camber.
Positive camber, sorry.
Helping you get around the corner. But the problem is, because it levels out once you hit the grass, it just completely unsettles the car.
Yeah, that toe link's broken. That wheel's doing nothing. As Sam Chapman round the left side. Whitaker's going to keep the inside. And for any of you who have read a book or an article called The Vortex of Danger, this ain't it. Neither of these guys care. They are drag racing, essentially, as they go through here. Whitaker will keep the lead for now. Sam Chapman will try to do a crisscross. Okay, the camera is on the apex, and Sam was immediately to the left of that. So you can see just how much he cut that corner. He's trying everything to get past this car, but Chris Whitaker saying, no, I like it out front. I think I'll keep it. But they've still got 2 laps to go. Based on the lap times we're seeing, this might be white flag. Keep an eye out for Barney on the left side of your screen as we come around. Well, the right side, sorry. I thought it would be an inverse camera shot. It wasn't.
There he is.
There it is. So Chris Whitaker leads into the last lap. Sam Chapman throwing everything at him to see if he can get back that P1 position. And as it stands, 2.7 seconds to Brendan Whitaker. I think it's going to be a fight between these two and these two alone for that top spot.
Oh, that chop from Chris Whitaker there, doing a move that Chapo has been doing all day to other cars. He has tasted his own medicine and it is bitter. These guys have been silent. Oh, don't hit the water, man. What are you doing? Oh, God. For those who don't know, both the Whitakers often come into the commentary box after races, you have a bit of a chat. Chapman has been racing these guys in TCR, in anything with a roof at the GSRC for years now. So these guys know how to race each other, and they will want to race each other hard because none of them will want to lose, and that would have made me very nervous. See that car coming over from the right. Didn't get anywhere near, but you're watching like, what are you doing, mate?
Oh, Sam.
He's touched the grass there. Sam, get second. Don't throw it away trying to get the victory. You can see how much it means to him.
Live your life, Sam! Get the P1!
A second's just first loser, right? That's the motto we're going for. Oh, look how close he is. He's going to have to try and line him up for the final corner. Get a better run out of here. Force him to go defensive. Tuck underneath it, get on the accelerator earlier and see if he can get a run. No. Whitaker's getting a better run out there. I don't see a way for Chapman to get past. I think Whitaker's going to hold on for the victory unless something happens here, unless he gets a bit of understeer or something, or a bit of oversteer. It's going to take a mistake for Whitaker. Gets around there. Clearly does he. That's not Whitaker. That is a back marker. Chapman right behind him, but he's not going to be able to get past. Whitaker takes the victory. Chapman in second. Brendan Whitaker in third. Sam Stride in fourth. Adam Lavis should finish fifth, but he's got Brett Barker right next to him, and now going side. No, that's Lavis just ahead of Barker. This is Christensen and Ellis. Christensen on the outside, Ellis on the inside. Christensen gets around the outside. Ellis finishes in 8th place. Then it's Cousins 9 seconds back, so we've got a bit of a track to wait for before he finishes 9th. And Adam Proctor and Ryan Taggart look like they have relegated Kurt Nommensen out of the top 10, and Nommensen will finish in 12th. Unless he can get them back before they finish across the start-finish line, but there's not much time for him to do so. Great race. Absolutely great race. Bit of strategy in there. Weren't sure what was going to be the right tire to start on. Whitaker played a blinder on his strategy, pitting the lap before Chapo, managing to get a shorter pit stop and get ahead of Chapman. Be interesting to know whether that was fuel or hitting your markers. So again, whether it's strategic or skill that put Whitaker ahead of, well, kept Whitaker ahead of Chapman, and Brendan Whitaker with a brilliant recovery from 13th to the podium.
A couple of close finishes there. So obviously Sam Chapman just finishing in P2. Brett Barker there, almost getting Lavis, but unfortunately finished behind him in P6. Then of course David Christensen just pipping Stuart Ellis at the line, and it looks like Kurt Nommensen dropped down to P12 but stayed ahead of Dale Sharp for that. So it's a good finish there.
Despite having the fastest lap of the race, finishes in P14, and it's what could have been for Gosner, what could have been this round, because he had tremendous pace in both races. And we're being joined by the first of our drivers, Ryan Taggart and Kurt Nommensen, joining us. Ryan started P4 in that race, finished in 11th. Can you just talk us through where all went wrong?
I had a rough start. Even in the feature, I had a rough start, and I ended up spinning it at the hairpin. It was just races of recovery for me. But Adam Maverick and I just got a little bit of a tiff. I was just coming in to do a bit of an undercut, and he's just tagged me on the way through. Just unfortunate. I should have told him I was coming in for the pit, but at the same time, tap on behind wasn't feeling very good. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. But you had some great battles out there.
Awesome racing from everyone, to be honest.
Yeah, really clean considering the conditions. And how were the conditions out there, particularly at the start of the feature race, where I think it was a bit of a coin flip for whether you started the dries or the wets?
Yeah, it was definitely a coin flip if you could put a lap together. I managed to put half a lap together, and it got me into starting in 6th or 7th, so not too bad. But yeah, it's definitely it's actually funny that the trickier the conditions, the better the racing seems to be, because everyone's just a little bit more cautious and a little bit more gives a little bit more room, and just allows you to get past a little bit easier. So if you're a bit more aggressive, you can sort of make a move, but you got to have a lot of confidence in your car. So it just depends if you got that confidence or not, really, and that'll give you the spots. Which if you take away my starting position, I ended up making more overtakes in these two races than I have in my entire year so far, I think.
I want to just jump in here just to touch on something that you said, Ryan. So you were saying if you have confidence in your car. Now, I don't know about anyone else, but at least from my point of view, your biggest battle was yourself. The amount of times I saw you wiggling that car was insane, and I was literally like on the edge of my seat, like, are you going to die? And every time you were like, no, I'm fine.
It's a funny car with on the wets. Like I said, confidence, you can get a little bit out of shape, and you don't actually lose too much pace because you're sort of aquaplaning. So you can, as long as you know that you're aquaplaning and just have a nice light right foot, you'll be able to get yourself sort of in a straight line again. But obviously it didn't work every time. I ended up spinning out of control a couple of times. So yeah, so unfortunately I just didn't have the consistency. I had the pace, but just not the consistency, which is really my letdown tonight.
Yeah, but it was entertaining, and that's what counts.
Yeah, exactly right. I'll try to be as most entertaining as possible.
Yeah, entertaining is what we're after, and you do tend to provide for us, Ryan, so it's always...
Yeah, I try my best. To be honest, like I said, I don't know how accurate it was, but my crew chief was telling me I was doing the fastest laps of the race, and I don't know if that's really the case, but it gave me some extra confidence to try and push it just a little bit harder, and yeah, that's how I was managing to make in the last lap a couple of extra overtakes just to get a few more points. So. But yeah, it's just definitely a confidence game, and I've learnt my lesson. I'll make sure I give a heads up when I'm going to the pits when I'm at Brands Hatch. It's just one of those funny pit entrances, so yeah, just an unfortunate night, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it is an unfortunate pit entrance, and I'm sure you'll have better luck in the next race. Which of the production cars is your favourite now that we've driven them all?
It was definitely not Porsche, that's on the bottom of my list because I can't drive that to save my life. It'll be between the 86. Heck, you know what? It'll be the Mustang. For some reason, I've got massive pace in the Mustangs, and I can't explain it. I don't know why. It just suits my driving style, and so yeah, it'll be Mustang, then the 86, and then I haven't actually raced in the TCRs this series yet because I missed the race, but then the TCRs and the Porsche.
Yeah, I'm quite jealous of you being able to race TCRs. They're one of my favourites.
Yeah, I haven't raced them. The GSRC used to race them a lot, and it was actually how I met some of my teammates in the Locked Up Pernville Sim Sports team. Me and Chris Stark, I first battled with him in TCR, and that's what started my whole GSRC career as well. So it's a fantastic car to drive in.
Yeah, it really is. Well, best of luck for the rest of the Production Cars series. We'll be cheering you on from the comms box, and yeah, best of luck for everything else you're racing in the GSRC this season as well.
Thanks, mate. Have a good night, guys.
Have a good night. Well, head on over now to Kurt as he beat Sam into the commentary box. Kurt, you were in the top 10 in both races, and in both races you didn't quite finish there. Can you just talk us through what happened?
Yeah, the second race was definitely just I didn't have the pace of the other guys. Had a great race with Dale. I moved a little bit on brakes when the car would slide, but yeah, I think pushing too hard in the first race, that was all me. Definitely just trying to keep up with them, and a learning experience, and hopefully I can do better next time in the 86s now.
Yeah, certainly. And how did you find battling the wet track out there today?
The wet track was it was difficult, but yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun driving the 86s in the wet.
Yeah, I imagine there would be from the wet. We just heard from Ryan saying that as you start to slide, you can bring it back, so you can sort of push them and lower the limits are, and not crash on like some of the cars where as soon as you're over the limit, you're in the wall. How did you find these after last week in the was the MX5 last week? It was, wasn't it? At Laguna Seca?
No, it's the Porsche Cup. It's Spa.
Porsche Cup. Oh yeah, it's quite a difference. How did you find swapping from the power and the beast Porsche Cup to the rather more timid 86?
It's definitely a change. I didn't have as much time as I really wanted to practice this week. I've been flat out with work. But yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun to jump back into a slower car and have really close racing and actually be able to compete for the top 10 in these cars versus the Porsche Cup where I just couldn't keep up with those guys.
Yeah, you definitely had the pace to be in the top 10 in the feature race, and yeah, just like you said, your own worst enemy, and then the sprint didn't quite have the pace of the first race and just fell victim to some of the slower cars starting behind you. But still up 3 spots, so you can't complain after starting 15th, finishing in 12th. That's a decent recovery.
I think I went up in the first, or I might have gone down like 1 spot, so pretty consistent, and I'm happy with the consistency, and that's what I'm aiming for the most part with this series. Just learning the cars, all the different driving styles, and going for consistency over outright wins.
Yeah, outright wins is very, very ambitious, but top 10s definitely. If you keep putting yourself in sort of 11th, 12th, then you're going to start getting top 10s, right? And then the goal will be to get them consistency, and then you can see where you can go from there.
Yeah, well, if I can do it in the supercars, I can do it here.
Exactly.
I just got to work towards it.
Yeah. Alright, well, best of luck for the rest of your racing at the GSRC this week. I know you've run quite a few categories, and hopefully we can speak to you next time.
Yeah, well, I'll be in the GT4, so we'll see after that.
Yeah, excellent. Best of luck. And on to Chapo. Leading the first race for the first 2/3 of it, and then lost 3 positions in 1 corner, and then couldn't quite recover to the victory in the sprint race, in the feature race.
Yeah, I mean, the first race, I think I was playing it a little bit safe when I was out front, and then sort of everyone caught back up, and by that point I just didn't have quite enough pace to make it back, whether that was over the tyres or I was just being a bit sensitive with it. But yeah, just got swamped on that straight. And I was considering keeping it 3 wide, but we thought better of it in the end. So, it was still a pretty good result. But, obviously, pole is probably want more than that. So that's what it's like in the sort of wet, very slippery, very difficult out there, particularly in race 1. So, yeah, we'll take that. And then, wow, what a race 2 was. That battle with Chris, particularly towards the end there, was just brilliant. It's probably one of the best battles I've had with someone. So yeah, thanks to him. That was great.
Yeah, it was great to watch. The two of you gave each other no space. He had me holding my breath when he cut across you going into the hairpin. I wasn't sure there was space there. Did you have to get out of that at all, or did you have the car's width?
Yeah, on turn 2 there, yeah, I did a bit. I mean, I wasn't alongside, but I was looking at potentially trying to make something under braking and pulling out if I didn't. But yeah, I think he got a bit of lock up and sort of like came across. So I just sort of hit the brakes, and I think that sort of got me out of sequence for the rest of that lap, really. I wasn't quite able to make it up and be quite alongside him towards the end of the lap, but regardless, like, given, you know, there would have been centimetres between a lot of the manoeuvres that we were doing, and it's yeah, it was great. It's great fun. Then, you know, the way we race, it can go bad, or it can be just right.
Yeah, just to jump in here, on that, right? The other thing that's crazy too, Chris has just typed in there saying about time he's had a race without one of us ending the wall, which Chris counts for race 2, but you did spin out in race 1, so it's one of 2. But in any case, I have to give him props because that man drove like he was possessed. The amount of attack he would have on corners, I was mentioning it all throughout the broadcast, that the rear of his car would just be like permanently wagging. And I'm like, man, what are you doing? And it worked, so, you know, that power to him. But yeah, it was insane. Like, you guys were really, really close all the way up to the battles, and then he seemed to get you on the pit stop. So what happened there? Did you just miss your pit box and had to adjust, or you just fueled up a little bit more? What was the deal?
I'm probably overfueled a bit. I'm still dealing with my JRT subscription expired, and that was always my golden ticket for getting fuel right. And I haven't got a new one yet. And I've been trying to use Race Labs, and it doesn't update that it's actually a time race. It wants 35 litres of fuel or something like that. So I've got to get on top of that, I think. But also my that lap between us, like, mine was probably a little messy. Like, it wasn't a perfect lap. So yeah, I mean, he sort of came out. He was already ahead of me going in, so for him to come out sort of a second and a half ahead isn't that far off the mark. But I thought we lost a little bit of time there. So, but it was all right because we were able to catch him up pretty quickly, actually. But he just was able to put the car in the right spots, leave, exactly enough room, and hold on to it.
Yeah, so I mean, pretty strong results in the end, right? So you finished fifth and second. So that's just what you need in the championship after a few up and down races. Is that going to be the key to winning the championship? Just keeping consistent over the next 5 rounds?
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, consistency is key with this stuff. It is really hard in these sort of series where you've got that second race to the reverse grid. And also, I guess, to an extent with slower cars, because you can't sort of, I guess, just rely on pace to pull you away. You have to, there's a lot of battling that goes on, and there's just things that can go wrong that you can't avoid. So, yeah, like, it will come down to consistency. I mean, that was the key last season as well, when Stuart won in the 86ers, the 86ers series. A lot of us none of us really got a lot of clean rounds where, you're getting anywhere near that sort of 60 points because, of incidents or, X, Y, Z. So, if you can do that and sort of take home a really consistent haul, it'll certainly pay dividends down the road. I don't know what it's looking like now, but I'd assume the third champ pretty good.
And we'll be seeing you in the V's tomorrow, in the Super Formula Light.
Of course. You'll be seeing me in the V's. I have a suspicion, I haven't heard that, Adam's trying to get my services for commentary rather than racing in the Super Formula Light, to my dismay. I would like to be out there around Suzuka, but we'll see if I'm in the booth or not. But yeah, Sonoma in the B's. I tried a couple of laps last night or the night before, and it's going to be pretty interesting. It's going to be very tricky, so I'll imagine there'll be quite a few incidents. It'll be a case of being pretty careful around there, particularly with that full reverse grid.
Yeah, I suspect we might be tag teaming the commentary tomorrow, because he's hit me up like, hey, I'm guessing you don't want to commentate tomorrow, which is code for we need a commentator for tomorrow. So yeah, I might end up doing B's and you'd inform. Oh, we'll wait and see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, congratulations on your results tonight. Didn't quite get to top step, but showed plenty of pace and still got 2 strong results. And best of luck for racing tomorrow and the rest of your racing at GSRC into next week.
Thank you, Liam.
Alright, and of course we're only able to bring you vision of that racing because of the current support of all of the sponsors of the GSRC, and they're running across the bottom of the screen right now, starting with Waste Options, followed by Sprite and non-alcoholic cider, then Orbic Australia, Lobesy Racing, M-Wave Australia, and there is an affiliate link in the Discord where you can get a discount, and any proceeds will go to the GSRC and Flash Graphics. So thank you very much to them, and if you would like to become a sponsor, or if you'd like to sponsor any series, please do just reach out to the committee via the Discord and we will get that sorted for you. For now, we're going to take a short break, but don't go too far away because we will be back with the 5th round of the GT4 Championship live from Portimão in a few minutes' time. Welcome back, everyone. As promised, it's a reasonably short break between the production cars and the GT4s. And in that time, we moved over from England to the much more pleasant Portugal and Portimão. One of the best tracks in the world, as far as I am concerned. And they are about to wrap up qualifying here. Now we'll bring you a single race in the GT4 tonight, and that will be a standard 40-minute race. So there will be a pit stop for fuel. And this will be the bread and butter for most of these drivers, length of run most often in the GT4s. It's going to be interesting to see how the GT4s handle this circuit. Of course, the circuit most well known for its bike racing, although it did get a brief interlude on the F1 calendar during the COVID years, and I can't believe they kept him there instead of put him out, but that's a gripe for another day. These are the track conditions: 23 degrees air temperature, 31 degrees track temperature, 50 degrees humidity, not expecting any rain, I don't believe, and it is no rain on GT4s, so certainly not expecting any rain, and only light wind. Thank you very much for Daniel being a font of knowledge when it comes to all things iRacing. I much appreciate it.
But it will be soon. So that developer update that we got did say that the next round of rain updates, the entire GT4 field will be updated.
Excellent. Anything else coming online?
Let me see if I can remember. So the big ones were, let's see. So for rain, it was the GT4s, the LMP3s, and I believe there was one other series, but I do not remember what it was.
They're mostly targeting the Enduro series.
I think it might have been MX5s. Yeah.
As a free car, that would make sense to get some get the wets on the free cars.
Yeah.
You can see qualifying is over, so not long until the race starts, and we can bring you the starting grid for that race.
Porsche Cup. Thank you, Kurt. Yes.
Oh,
the Porsche Cup and MX5. Yes, that's right. The 992 is getting rain, which is hilarious.
It does not need rain.
Which is hilarious. So yeah, for those wondering when the Porsche Cup series was going to have a revival here at the GSRC, I smell next season maybe, and with that comes a lot of water.
Yes, I would happen to agree with that statement. I think, given that it was already very popular before it took a break, they very much called it a break, and not that it was being retired, and it's getting rain next season. I think we probably will see it next season.
The GT3
cars, the American ones. Right?
It's interesting because they said, here's why I think it's dumb. They said 2 American cars, but it can only be 2 cars. It can only be the Mustang and the Corvette. Right. So the only other possible thing they could do, which they won't, but they could, is if they brought the Viper. No, I'm not saying. But I'm saying.
Oh, I love the Viper. Viper's a beautiful car. Here we go. This is the starting grid for the GT4s. Trent Lavis takes pole position ahead of Samuel. Then behind them, half a second behind them, is Luke Turner on his hand-controlled steering wheel, not an Xbox controller. Thank you for winding me up, Whittaker's, on multiple occasions. Gary Cousins in 4th spot. Then it's Glenn Riddell in 5th. Richard King in 6th. Adam Lavis is on the 4th row alongside Colby Coham, with Zamora and Christensen at the back of the top 10. Then in 11th spot, we will have Kurt Chapman, and he's got Brendan Whittaker alongside him. Paul Wood is in 13th with Brett Bradbury alongside him, and then Neil De Bruin and Dale Jeffries make up the 8th row. On the 9th row is Dale Sharp and Greg Colgan. Then it's Kurt Normanson and Lindsay Kearns. And at the rear of the grid is Robert McGrath and Anthony Adshead. But as we saw in the Production Car Cup, Anthony Adshead is no stranger to making a few moves, and at one point was up over 11 spots in the production cars, although his name is Gray, so he hasn't taken the grid yet, so he may not be in this race. Although Gary Cousins and Colby Coham also yet to take the grid behind the safety car. Of course, the GT4s, as always, it is a rolling start, just to keep things nice and stable. So Lavis and Muir showing incredible speed in qualifying, half a second on the field. If they can replicate that pace, it'll be a 2-car race in this for the victory within a few laps. So for the rest of the field, they better hope they've got a bit of pace in their pocket, because otherwise they're going to be out of the running very early on. As the safety car pulls away, safety car being controlled by iRacing, and thankfully it doesn't do the entire lap. It's starting, I mean, I'd like to see it start a little bit further along next time. Starting instead between turns 4 and 5, which is about a third of the way around the track.
The other thing too is that if you're wondering why the cars are moving the opposite way on the map, that is because SDK has not fixed that error, so they're going the correct way on the track, but unfortunately it looks like they're going in reverse on the track map.
That's madness. Yeah, right, okay. That breaks my brain.
That's a really interesting one to deal with, yes. The pace car here, just leaning them around the final sector now. So they get ready to kick off 40 minutes here at the Algarve International Autodrome, otherwise known as Portimão. And we saw the Formula cars here last week. And they gave us a really good show. So there, I would assume that the GT4s will put on just as good of one, if not better. Admittedly, they weren't too bad at the Nürburgring either. I thought that might turn into an extended lap fest, but there was some good battles all throughout. And it's the GT3s that go to the Nürburgring next week, I believe.
Yes, that's right. Might have to do some practice to see if I can run that one, because I love the Lodge Life. Such a good circuit.
24 hours this weekend, so anybody that's competing in that's going to get all the practice they want.
Oh, that's the point. I'll stand no chance. That's the point. But never mind that, because we're about to go racing here. The safety car is about to pull away into the pits, and Trent Lavis will lead the field away, and he'll have Samuel alongside him. So Lavis will decide when this goes into green flag conditions by pressing his right foot down on that nice loud throttle pedal. Whole field will bunch up behind him. Nobody's going to want to leave a gap. I'll tell you what is the most frustrating thing when the person in front of you does leave a gap, because it makes zero sense at all. But anyway, none of these guys are doing it. They're all experienced with rolling starts, because we do them every race in the GT4s. And Lavis gets them away. They are at full throttle now. Samuel still in second. Adam Lavis makes an early position gain. He's ahead of Richard King. Zamora also getting ahead of Colby Cohen. So one line was a little bit slower than the other line. Looks like Luke Turner making an early move with Samuel. He's got the inside line. He'll have the inside for the second corner. And can't quite hold on for the third. Samuel is comfortably ahead. Glenn Riddell going up the inside of Gary Cousins there on your screen. He gets into 4th place. Cousins relegated to 5th. Cohen is in 6th place. Christensen in 9th. Another driver that has changed position. And Brendan Whitaker is up 11th. Should call him Brenniker. And that is Kurt Normanson.
Unfortunately.
Come on, Kurt.
Looks like Brett also involved there. Oh, it's David goes deep on the inside.
Gets it done. A really good heads-up driving there from, I believe it was Paul Wood in the light blue car. No, because he's ahead of Christensen now, so he's at Zamora. Whitaker's in the pink car.
Yeah, Zamora's in that
Zamora. Yeah, really good heads-up driving. You saw him notice Christensen come down the inside and pull out to the outside, and notice his car on the outside and avoid hitting him. So that very easily could have ended in tears, but I think it's because of Zamora that it did not. Whitaker very aggressive here. He's already up 2 spots as his Kurt Chapman ahead of him. It looks like he's pulling to the inside there to try and make a move on Chapman through Portimão, which is a very brave place to go for an overtake, because it is absolutely blind and very, very difficult to get the car turned in correctly. And he's and that's wide from Christensen. Don't really want to be out there. Eduardo Zamora struggled off that corner as well. Christensen's going to go up his inside. And this is the run through to the final. This is the final corner. So they're actually on the top left of the map right now, which is the long right-hander. They're certainly not where it appears on the map. And Christian's going to maintain that position. Sitting in lap 1, Lavis holds on the first spot ahead of Muir, and Luke Turner stays in 3rd. Vidal makes a move up into 4th. Kobe Coham makes a move up into 7th, and then Kurt Chapman and Brandon Whitaker up 2 spots into 9th and 10th with Eduardo Zamora and Christensen the victims.
So So 40 minutes. These guys have to strap in 4. It is. Zamora goes up to the side. I don't think he hit the fence. I think he was still on the grass there, but he drops down to P21, and we'll have a look as to what happened there for him. Into the corner. Yeah, just a little bit too much curb in the exit there. Oh no, it did hit the fence. Oh, it was heavy too. I'm not sure what kind of damage is to be expected. Oh, he towed, so
He'd have to be towed. I think that might be him out of this race in the early stages, thanks to just a relatively small mistake. But it's the combination, isn't it? It's not just the going wide, it's the going wide and keeping your foot in it that is the issue. If he had lifted, probably would have been okay.
we actually
But
saw.
did not in spins.
Yeah, in real life, we actually saw last year there was a touring car, I want to say, that actually made it where he crashed on the opposite side. It actually skidded across the gravel and flipped into the grandstand. Now, luckily, it was on a practice day, and so there wasn't anybody there. But definitely not something that people expected to see. It was a car flipping up into the grandstands. Those days should be well and truly over with the safety features, but it is the problem with things like sand and gravel. Sometimes the car just hits it on an angle and it gets absolutely launched. We saw a similar thing happen to Guan Yu Zhou in Silverstone of last year as well. Was it last year? Silverstone
Yes,
last year?
it was
Yeah.
last year, and his halo dug into the gravel, and that was what ended up flipping him. But you would hope that sites like seeing a TCR in the stands would be totally and completely redundant by now. But they're not. And yes, that did spell TCR, and that was deliberate. Richard King here in 6th spot. I had that one lined up for about 15 seconds. I was just waiting for you to finish. I could get it in. Richard King here, he's in 6th spot, which is where he started the race. Kobe Cohen is in 7th still. No real movement since the last time we went through the top 10. However, Dale Sharp is on the charge in the lower reaches of the standings. He's gone from 17th to 13th in only 2.5 laps. So he's definitely someone that appears to have qualified out of position in his BMW. And Aston Martin leading the way, then a BMW in second, a Mercedes in second, a BMW in third, and then a McLaren in fourth, and a Porsche in fifth. Isn't that absolutely wonderful to see all 5 manufacturers represented in the top 5?
Yeah, actually. There are only 5 GT4s. Like 5
There's only 5 in the
manufacturers.
server.
Right? So that is all of them.
I believe so. Yep.
Good job. They need to add more, honestly. I know that sounds ridiculous, but people really enjoy GT4s, and I think the variety is important. I understand that obviously people want more GT3s because they're the more popular, and that's fine. And yes, everybody wants the Mustang, and that's fine. I did see that Kurt mentioned that the Acura is an option for GT3, but is the Acura considered American? It is the American branch of the Honda brand. I don't know if it's considered American though.
I think you would. Same way you'd consider Holden Australian. Holden's just the Australian branch of Vauxhall.
I don't know what you're talking about. Holden doesn't exist anymore. That's a bygone.
Oh, that's true, yeah. That thing from the past.
Yeah. Which is a shame, but no, it is what it is. So yeah, it's all GM now. It's all Chevrolet. Ford stays Ford. It never changed for the localization here. The only benefit is they do make nice cars, and supercars are trying to make it a better spectacle. It's actually been pretty decent thus far this year, so I've been enjoying it. But as for this race, man, everybody has really funneled into their positions. Adam Lavis going deep there, trying to get Kurt Chapman. He does, well done. So he moves up in 8th position. Looks like Whitaker is also trying to take it on that left side. You can see Kirby liveried car there, and it looks like he'll get it. He does. He moves up in P9, but Trent Lavis is holding steady at the. Ooh, hold on a minute here.
Oh, that looked like. Oh, can't believe that wasn't contact.
Oh,
I
that
thought
was
it was going to
close.
be contact.
That was
Yeah,
close.
that's closer than I was with somebody else when I crashed in the Super Formula Lights around Catalunya a couple of races ago, which made me very sad. Anyway,
I've ruined myself, and I'm about to ruin everyone at home. Okay, so we can see the Kirby livery on that car. Now, if we get a really good shot, the Aston Martin logo looks like Kirby's mouth. Oh no,
All right.
I can't unsee that. No. See?
It does, yeah.
Smiling at me.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, look at that little smile. Oh, he's so happy. That's because he's just overtaken Kurt Chapman for 9th place.
Only the most professional commentary available here at the GSRC, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, that's a very professional livery, so it deserves professional commentary. Richard King lining up for a move on the inside here, going into turn 1. Really dangerous going through turn 1, just because it links up so early with turn 2. You're kind of through turn 1 and then you're immediately setting up for turn 2 and then you've got turn 3 soon afterwards. Like, you don't get much of a chance to breathe, to readjust. So if you get it wrong in turn 1 or you're not quite where you want to be, your brain's got to work really quick to sort yourself out, get yourself around 2 and 3 correctly. So it's just, you can make moves there. It's certainly not impossible. It's not as bad as, say, Suzuka turn 1 and 2, which is effectively one corner in most vehicles these days. It's there's a bit more time, but it's still quite interlinked and just difficult to get around if you get out of your groove. Talk about difficult to get around if you get out of your groove. Please do join Daniel for the racing tomorrow, which we've got coming to you live from Sonoma for the Formula V's, and then Suzuka for the Super Formula Light, and that is the spiritual home of those cars, and that is a track that is very difficult if you get out of your groove, which is why it reminded me of that. So that should be absolutely fantastic to watch as we just see the difference in lines there. Richard King staying much more narrow, so he's evidently been spooked at some point during practice, or he hasn't practiced and he's just making sure he gets round, because if you do get out onto that outside curve, certainly in Super Formula Light, I don't know if it'll be the same in GT4s, I assume it is because I haven't seen many people going out there. The curve pulls you left and it makes it harder to turn in if you go too far over that curve. So, and it is blind as you go up the start of Portimão. So that first right, which is more of a kink, it's just really hard to judge correctly. So you'll see a lot of cars staying quite narrow to make sure they're nowhere near that curb, and then compromising their speed through the exit of Portimão for safety. And those that are confident, those who've done a bit more practice laps, they'll be wider because they're confident in being able to judge the kink, and then they can carry more speed for the second part of Portimão, and it's much faster. You can get about a second there if you get it right. It really is a corner that's going to separate the lap times for many of these guys, and it's actually one of the reasons Portimão is such a great track, because many of the corners, you can say that in many of the corners there is a lot of time to be found and lost, compared to, say, a standard 90-degree right left, where even someone who's bad at it is probably, you know, anyone that's reasonable is going to be within half a second through that corner easily, whereas you can have pretty reasonable drivers separated by more than half a second through some of these corners. As we're watching Kirby getting quite a good run out of there. So this is Whittaker looking to make a move on Lavis with his distinctive Castrol liveried Bailey Ladders entry. And again, you can see from the body language, Whittaker putting that car everywhere he wants to, and using different lines, coming all around the back of Adam Lavis, and just showing that he does seem to have more pace in the cars in front at the moment. You can see there, everybody, no one going anywhere near that outside curb, although theoretically you can go there, it is theoretically quicker. I feel like these four might be in reverse speed. Because Lavis looks quicker than Richard King ahead of him as well. Kelby Coam's probably the one I'm not sure. He might be able to break away from this group.
Looking at the lap times, he was the fastest of the... That's a lie. Brendan Whittaker actually was 151.9. And Colby was a 152.16. Richard King 152.38. Adam Lavis 152.6. So as they cross the line here, those will of course be updated. And Callum and Lavis 0.01 was the splitting difference there.
And as we mentioned in after qualifying, the top two, Trent Lavis and Samuel, had half a second a lap on the field, and so it has proven in the race. Last lap, Lavis did a 151.3, Samuel did a 151.2, and Luke Turner did a 151.8, and he was the only other driver in the 51s, the others in the 52s, and the bulk of the field actually in the 53s. So Lavis and Muir have got oodles of pace. They are much faster than everybody else on track, and they've built a 4-second lead over Luke Turner at this point. And anyone who's watched Luke Turner in the GT3s knows just how fast he is, which just proves that Trent Lavis and Sam Muir have a unique relationship with this car and a unique ability to drag speed out of what is a relatively slow vehicle compared to some of the other cars we drive around iRacing. Luke Turner's not got it all his own way for the final spot of the podium, though he does have Glenn Riddell in relatively close company, only 2.2 seconds between them, and there is fuel strategies play out here, so we do not know who is fuel saving, who is not. It could be that Lavis and Muir are using lots of fuel, and Turner and Riddell are saving fuel. It's not often that they are massively outpaced, so don't bet against that at this point. It looks like it's between Lavis and Muir for the lead, and then between Turner, Riddell and Cousins for the final spot on the podium at the early stage of this race, about a quarter of the way through. As we watch Adam Lavis in that 4-car scrap we've been following for a couple of laps now between Colby Cohan, Richard King, Adam Lavis and Brendan Whitaker. Lavis is in the Castrol livery, Whitaker's in the Kirby, but you know that already, we've said that a lot of times. Richard King is in that beautiful gold and silver livery. And Colby Cohan is at the front of the queue currently in his BMW.
Yeah, so it's progressing quite slowly at the front there. Of course, that gap has been pretty much stagnant between Lavis and Muir, and they're doing essentially the same lap times. About a 0.3 difference in that last one there, but both of them marked as red, so not exactly sure if they were legit. Oh, there's a tap there.
Going for a spin.
That's Whitaker. So Whitaker is obviously doing the gentlemanly thing and waiting. That's going to cost them both a couple of positions, but again, it's about the gentlemanly thing. Unfortunately, that is significant damage on the rear of that car. You can see it all funneled in. And we'll have a look again as to what happened there between these two. So here is Brendan Whitaker.
Lyle's back.
Oh, that's a missed brake marker. And there's nowhere he could go.
Yeah, it would have been awkward for him to try and dive to the inside as well, because there were other cars in close proximity of Adam Lavis' head, so I don't know if he could just dive to the inside. Arguably could have dived to the outside, but it's so hard. Once you realise that he's missed his brakes, probably just panicking and almost target locking on Adam Lavis, so I'm not going to won't judge him too hard for that. It's very easy to do at that corner as well, because you're going very, very fast. It's the main one of the main places where you do get a bit of a breather, and you can try to adjust to one or two things, but yeah, it's a big miss, and just feel sorry for Adam Lavis, because there's nothing you can do about that. Probably the best thing he could do is take himself into pit lane and see if he can run a counter strategy to those ahead and get himself some clean air if he hasn't landed in clean air.
Is there a fast repair for the GT4s? I'm not familiar.
I'm not sure. That's why I stopped myself from saying repair it.
Yeah.
Because I started saying that and then didn't. Oh, and he has pitted.
Yeah, so if there is, then curious to see, actually.
So we'll just watch this. It'll be towards the end of the garage because he qualified fairly high up. Won't take tyres, so it will just be fuel. Yeah, must have had a fast repair. I've had a fast. Yep, yeah. There you go, fast repair. So that will damage Lavis just because of the time, but there shouldn't be any greater damage than that.
Yes, that's a good question. I was actually just going to mention that. Can he get enough fuel to the end? So he's going to have significant fuel saving if he doesn't want to have to stop again.
Well, they normally run about 25 minutes, right?
I
think it'll be okay, because we're almost halfway through. We're 16 minutes into a 40-minute race.
Yeah. So
it'd have to be right on the limit, only 1 or 2 laps either way for him not to be able to get to the end. So I imagine he'll be okay. I think from memory it's 25 minutes is normally what they run, 25 to 30 minutes. So we'll soon know, because others will start pitting. In fact, Dale shot pit on lap 6, as did Ken Robinson, so they're not the first to pit. We don't know if that was forced. Once we see more of the front runners pit, we'll get a better idea. And actually, was the last car pit? That's what we'll know for sure. Because the last car will be running their tank pretty much dry. Stay play, Trent Lavis still leads from Sam Muir. They're still putting in lap times that make everybody else look like they're driving in a different category. Luke Turner is in third place, 5.5 seconds behind. That'll be 6 or 7 seconds very shortly. Glenn Riddell's 2.5 seconds back of Luke Turner. So Luke Turner not fast enough to stick with the leading two, but fast enough to be just slowly pulling away from Glenn Riddell. It is slowly but surely that he's pulling away, and then Gary Cousins in close proximity to Glenn Riddell. Then you've got Colby Cohen with Richard King right behind him. Paul Wood a further 5 seconds back with Kurt Chapman right behind him. Then big gaps throughout the rest of the field until you get down to Lindsay Kearns, who's got less than half a second on Greg Colgan. And the leader of those that have pitted is currently Dale Sharp, but I suspect it's about to be David Christensen. And in fact, it is. He pits and comes out, and that would have been a pit for strategy unless there was an incident we missed, which makes me think that Adam Lewis can indeed get to the end.
There is significant pace difference towards those front two. Now, interestingly, if you have a look at the best lap times of the guys ahead, Luke Turner is not that far back. It's a 151.1 there for Samuel, 151.3 Luke Turner. Trent Lavis is the only person in the 50s. He's got a 50.84 there. But based on the pace that we're seeing in the race, across the race, Luke Turner seems to be about a second down. So yeah, those front two really are fighting themselves. I don't know what the deal is. Possibly that Luke Turner is maybe looking for a fuel saving strategy and try and bring it up with a shorter fuel stop. Time will tell, I suppose. We are almost at the halfway mark. We're at 18 minutes 40 right now, so we're only about a minute and a bit away from that mark. But unfortunately for battles, it's not really developing right now. Richard King is getting close there to Colby Cowan, and it looks like Paul Wood has just come into the pits. And Colgan looks like he might be able to make an attack on Kearns then in P14. And it looks like Adam Lavis is coming up to the back of David Christensen in P17.
Honestly, I think what we're seeing there is just what I was saying before about how difficult this track is and how much time there is in each corner. So you make a small mistake at a corner and you're losing more time than you would have had another track. It's a 1 minute 50 lap in these cars, so it is a fairly long lap in these cars. So thinking, you know, that you have the ultimate pace but you can't hit that consistently, you're probably going to be further off than a normal track. So you might be often 3/4 to a second off your best lap around this track. That would not surprise me because there's so much time to be lost in every corner. I mean, that final corner, right? It's a really long right-hander, and then you're onto this huge straight. If you get your exit wrong and you lose a bit of time, you're losing pace all down that, and you can easily lose over half a second just through mucking up one corner.
Like
so exactly, it wouldn't surprise me if that
Christensen.
explains some of the variants and why it's just that Lavis and Samuel have got the best handle on this track, and it's a track that rewards you mastering it, unlike say some other tracks where you can make mistakes and lose a lot less time. You know, think about that corner, you just run through that hairpin, you get that wrong, you're losing time all the way through here, all the way through here, all the way through here, until you get to here. This is a difficult little double right-hander. And because you're on the uphill though, if you carry less speed, if you're slower on the acceleration, you're losing more speed because of the uphill just exaggerates that as you're exiting the corner. You know, through Portimão, if you get that wrong, you can end up just wide and having to scrub off so much speed to get the car actually turned in, because it seems to work against you if you get too wide. It's just, yeah, lots of corners that are very, very cool. That's Rubbin's Racing.
Yeah.
Those two cars will be very intimate with each other by the end of this. There might be a little mini car that's yellow and orange by the end of this race.
I was just about to... Oh, there's a bit of a touch. That's... Oh, that's made Kearns go slightly wide there. So it's a proper fight here for P12. Now, what I was going to mention was, and I'm going to do this in the most PG way I can.
Always a solid start to a conversation.
Right.
I'm going to say this in the most PG way I can.
Bear with me, everybody at home. The colours on the Team 77 Motorsport car, do they not remind you of a certain establishment that serves food and is known for owls.
Oh,
Or is it just me?
who? That one.
Yeah. That's all I think about when I see that color scheme. I'm sure that's not what they were going for, but anyway.
It didn't cross my mind, but you do you, bro.
Yeah.
Nah, okay.
All this
It
proves is that I'm
those-
slowly but surely going into delirium. As
You've
we
been
watch
watching-
these cars.
You've been watching too many American shows. That's what it is. It always seems to appear at some point in American shows.
Yes, Chris. Who indeed?
For the moment, it looks like the Who is Colgan, and he's got just managed to pull away a little bit from Lindsay Kearns. So that battle is they've reholstered their swords. Resheathed their swords? What do you holster? A gun. They've holstered
Yes,
their
you
guns.
holster a gun, you sheath a sword. That's correct.
Thank you very much. They've holstered their guns and caught time on that for now. And Lavis getting ahead of Dale Sharp there. In fact, I think that might have been a bet. I think that was Brendan Whitaker actually as a back marker, just letting them through. Because he is nationally retired for laps down. He won't be out on track.
Yeah, Tim, Zamora, and Adfed all out. And so
It's Christensen that went wide.
yes. Actually, no, it's red, so it'd have been Dale Sharp. They have a similar color car, but it's Dale Sharp in the red. So yeah, I think I agree with Chris. I think that was teamwork there. They know that Adam is obviously the faster one there. Why bother holding up your teammate? Get out of the way, let him break free, and he'll then go to chase down. Actually, let's have a quick recap of the pit stops here. So everyone down to Kearns of B12. So yeah, Adam will be looking to try and get as fast a lap as possible in the next coming to see if he'll be able to jump anybody when the pit stops do occur. Now, of course, if they're going long on their pit stops, that means the pit stops should be shorter in length. So this will work against him. But yeah, unfortunately, the incident between him and Whitaker did put him on the back foot slightly. That damage is now repaired. You can see that his back bumper is a nice round shape rather than it look like being attacked by an axe.
That is how I prefer my rear ends.
My rear
Knocked around
ends
and not
round.
attacked by an axe.
Yeah,
The not
life
attacked
pro
by an
tip.
axe in particular is key. Because
Yeah, life pro tip there.
Yeah.
And yeah, unfortunately, in terms of battles, they are quite slow at the moment. But once those front runners pit, maybe they'll come out and have a bit of a tussle. I'm not too sure. The closest one would be Richard King, who is still chasing down Colby Cole in that bright yellow BMW. I have to admit, I actually quite like that color with the traditional BMW colors on the side. I didn't think I would, but it's not bad. Usually you'll see it in white. It'll be white with the M competition colors on the side, but that one is in yellow, and I actually quite like it.
I like being a colourful car. It makes it easier to commentate on, rather than everyone just driving around in various shades of grey. Or predominantly white cars with a little splash of colour. Or just completely identical, except for the rims being different. That's my special favourite.
Yeah, they're all doing themselves a disservice because we all know the fastest color is red. So
Yeah.
just paint your car
Exactly.
red and be done with it. Actually, I
Yeah.
saw a really good...
Well, why do you think the Ferraris ended up behind the McLarens in the last race? They got rid of the red and put more blue on it.
yeah, that's true.
That was idiotic.
I'll tell you what, that's something that HP support can't help them with, unfortunately. I will say this, so HP have a really good opportunity here. They won't do it, which is a shame, but if you actually have a look at how the HP logo has evolved over the years, it's now just two lines. So it's a larger line for the H, and then it's a shorter line, and that makes that H, and then it's a larger line downward and a shorter line to make the P, right? Because when you draw it that way, they're opposites and symmetry and all that beautiful stuff. But if you just extend those lines, yeah, and you put them on the side of the Ferrari, you get a barcode. Eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. See? Now, that's not going to happen, but a man can dream. Because I reckon that'll look sick.
Yeah, that would look sick. I agree. They should definitely do it. Here you go. Hire this man, Ferrari. Hire this man for your next livery.
No,
To be
don't-
fair, I think
don't
you'd
harm
be
me for
replacing
livery.
you'd be replacing a photocopier, so you'd be more expensive.
Yeah, no, I definitely cannot design liveries because everything that I would design would be considered illegal. The minute anybody ever in a Formula One team was like, design me a livery, I'd be like, okay, cool. If Williams was like, design us a livery, I'd be like, cool. What you want is you want yellow and blue, you want to put camel on the front, and they'd be like, banned. I'd be like, right, fair. Ferrari would be like, what should we do? I'm like, you want to put Marlboro? Banned.
Well, it just keeps coming back to that. I don't know why. We told you not to do it. I can't help myself.
They were so good though. They were such basic liveries, but they were so good and they're so iconic and they're ingrained in everyone's minds.
Do you know what I like to see back? I like to see back the Honda Earth Dreams livery.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as
different.
memorable because obviously everyone's like, what do you mean Honda? I think you mean Braun. But I'm with you. It was a nice livery. We'll give them
It's a
that.
nice livery. I need to paint my sim Formula lot like that. Most of my open wheelers have got that colour scheme on them, but it's such a pain to do. It takes me like 8 hours to do it, and I just haven't found the time for Super Formula yet. I will do it at some point. Because you have to line up all the countries over the contours, and it's disgusting. And I'm not an artsy graphics person, so I don't know all the commands that well, so it takes me forever. We're starting to get some more cars in the pits now, and we are 28 minutes in, so Adam Lavis will be plenty fine on fuel. Gary Cousins and Kurt Chapman pitting outside of the top 10, so this is going to give us a bit of a view into how far up Adam Lavis might be able to get with his early stop, and Paul Wood, who is the lead of those who have stopped and 2.2 seconds ahead of Lavis at the moment, as Lavis looks to get a little bit further up. He's currently going side by side with Lindsay Kearns. And Lavis done a lovely job there. I'll get a better run for that corner. Surely Kearns will be on the outside. Has he carried enough space? Gone all over the white line there. Oh, no, he's come across him. That was... They've done well to not end up in the wall there, because Adam Lavis had every right to be where it was, and Kearns just assumed he had the car's name for Lavis came across, and I think they must have touched surely, or even though those cars are looking pristine.
Oh, someone's coming out of the pits. That's good, Chapman. Oi. I thought that was going to go south. There he is right there. That's the white BMW. Oh, and David Christensen in there as well. Far out. That went from 3 cars to 5 really rapidly. The biggest loser. It's Kurt. No, Kurt Chapman. He's sideways.
I think we'll have to watch that again. It looked to me like he was coming across Lavis. Lavis might be okay there. Let's just look at this again. Who is moving towards who?
That's a rough
That looked
one.
like netcode. That looked like netcode. I don't think they actually touch.
Yeah.
If we get a...
Let's have a look at the steering wheel. Oh, okay, yeah. So he wasn't turning left. So
No. I do think there was a gap between the two of them, honestly. On that second view, it looked quite clear, but I'd be interested to see. I'm sure race control will let us know. And so there could be a penalty coming Lavis's way. If one of them was moving, it was Lavis. But yeah, my suspicion is that looked a bit netcodey, particularly because it was so severe. The turning. Muir, Riddle. Let me say that correctly. Muir, Riddell, Coham, and Brune all in the pits now. I'm going to have to wait to see where they come out in relation. Paul Wood having a good race though, because he's ahead of Christensen and Kurt Chapman, and was ahead of that pack. Managed to avoid that drama, and what that's done is cost Labour some time to Paul Wood, which makes him a little bit more comfortable there. Neil De Bruyne and Colgan just exiting the pits now. It looks like De Bruyne will stay in the top 10. Paul Wood's get ahead of him though, as might Dale Sharp, and now he might come out just ahead of Adam Lavis. No, behind them, so they're going to be deep into the top 10 are Paul Wood and Adam Lavis. Paul Wood indeed running, his lap times don't look that great, but he's evidently put together a good strategy. I think this is high up as a get though, because we've got Lavis, Turner, and King to pit. So I think King will drop behind a bunch of these guys, but Turner will stay ahead of, I imagine, Cousins and Coham, because he was ahead of Riddell by a few seconds before the pit stops. And this is Trent Lavis pitting from the lead, as is Luke Turner. Now, interestingly, Lavis was just ahead of Sam Muir before the pit stop. So Sam Muir has done something with his pit strategy. If he's putting a blinding outlet, he might be able to get ahead of Lavis here. So this will be interesting to watch, and we'll watch as he exits, hopefully, so we can see whether he does come out in the lead with only 8 minutes to go. So this is as far as the tank would take you, I imagine. And just confirmation, Turner and King also pitting. Sam Muir is going to get Turner and King, and that means he's close by somewhere. No, he's still a good 3 seconds behind Trent Lavis. So Trent Lavis, barring a mistake, should have this one all wrapped up with 7.5 minutes to go. Luke Turner comes out way behind Sam Muir, a good 10 seconds between them. We suspected that would be the case due to the differences in pace throughout all of the first stint. Turner comes out well ahead of Riddell, who comes out well ahead of Cousins. Coham and Richard King are very close to each other, so less than a second between the two of them. And that is the closest battle in the top 10.
So 33 minutes out of 40. We are winding down the end of this race. Trent Lavis truly ahead, 2 seconds the gap. And then a 10-second gap to Luke Turner in P3. So again, it is truly the front two in their own little race. Trent Lavis really hasn't put a foot wrong. And based on the off-track counter, neither of them have any. But that is really good consistency from those guys. 17 laps traveled for both. As they finish up their 18th one now. But from the rest of the grid, just having a look at some of these movers. So Dale Sharp, one of the biggest, actually the biggest, 8 positions gained from the start of the race. McGrath in P14 currently up 7. And then it looks like Paul Wood would be third there with 5 gained up to P8. Zamora, the biggest loser there, lost 12 before he quit the race. And that's 4 cars out now. That's Nominson, Brendan Whitaker, Zamora, and Adshead. So we are down to 18. As Trent Lavis just crosses the line there.
I think we're right on the limit of getting an extra lap, which could be interesting for some people's fuel. I think it might be based on the pace of these guys. I think we're going to get another 4 laps. Because they crossed the line with about 6 minutes to go, and they're lapping just under 2 minutes. They're lapping 1 minute 51, 52. So I think we will get 4 laps in and go to lap 23.
Yeah,
Which just could be interesting, particularly those pitted earlier when the pace might have been a bit different. Or anyone that didn't put in any extra fuel just in case it does go for an extra lap. Depends how accurate their fuel systems were. I can just see it on I caught my eye, I've got a graphic on that tries to tell you how many laps there's going to be. Well, I keep forgetting to read when I'm commentating, but I'm remembering this time, and it flashed between 3 and 4 laps a little bit, which told me it was on the ball for a while there. And it seems to have settled down with there being 3 laps remaining now.
Ooh, that's deep there for Kurt Chapman, and it paid off. Did it pay off? Did it pay off? He has to take the outside line. That's quite wide. That's quite wide.
That's certainly the outside line.
Of all of the racing lines you could take, that is definitely one of them.
Well, that's the one that the NASCAR drivers like to take, isn't it?
Yeah, well, to be fair, they don't do well. Actually, no, they should excel at that corner. It's a left-hand turn.
Yeah.
But it's... okay, I'm going to take a slight break here. Watching NASCARs run on street circuits... No. Road circuits, like tracks. Street circuits as well, but the tracks, I mean, rather than an oval. It's hilarious. Because, like, they can obviously do it. But you can tell that they are designed for the only going left thing. And in terms of excitement, I'm actually more excited watching a NASCAR race when it's on an oval than I am on a street circuit, because there's always so many cars together. And it's like... I don't know how I'm going to put this, so let's see how this comes out. It's like shaking up 30 cans of Coke and putting them in a freezer and watching what happens. Like, maybe they'll be okay. Maybe they won't.
Maybe they'll explode all over your fridge, and you'll have to spend a heap of time cleaning it up, which happens to be recently.
No, that's what I mean. So that's why, like, NASCAR, I don't know, the ovals really, really get me going, but the street circuit's not so much, right? But then any other discipline of motorsport, it's like IndyCar, for example. IndyCar is way better on circuits than they are on ovals. They're great on ovals, but I just prefer them on a circuit. So maybe it's just...
I love watching them on the super speedways when the marbles start to build and you can see them all getting loose towards the end of their stint.
Fair. Yeah,
that's the wonderful thing about I didn't appreciate until iRacing taught me, and after I did a few overs, about how much the grip deteriorates and how sketchy it is just keeping those things from crashing on an oval, and how much the marbles just ruin you, because basically every few laps the probability of a crash intensifies because it gets so much more dangerous offline and the tires get so much more worn. So the longer the green running, the more chance there is going to be for chaos, and that just adds a beautiful tension to the oval races. But I do agree, they are some of the best cars for circuit racing. They're just fantastic to drive and fantastic to watch.
Yeah, they really, I will say, the Americans do know how to put on a motor race. They, I know a lot of people give NASCAR grief because of the whole turning left thing, but honestly, it's wicked. Like, knowing how the turbulent forces act on a car when you're in the middle of a pack, like, it must be, in the sim, it is Pucker Town when you're in the middle of a giant NASCAR group. Boy, like, if in real life, because the car just moves, like, you're holding the steering wheel straight, but the air is pushing the car around, and so you've got to contend with that while also not hitting the cars ahead. And then, like, bump drafting is a thing, and so, like, that the dude behind you can just, if maybe sorta, just nudge you a little bit too hard and boom, you're in the wall. It's just such a crazy, like, if you think about it, only the Americans could have made that sport.
Yeah,
because nowhere else in the world would they be like, yeah, let's just ride off these cars because it's cool. Everywhere else is way too efficiency focused. Like, Europe would never make that. They're just like, but what about the cost? Whereas in America, they're just like, yeah, Bubba will just rebuild it.
For a while, they tried to get a equivalent in Europe, and particularly Britain going, and it was called ASCAR. Right? And I actually went to a couple of the races at Rockingham Oval. So there is some oval racing in the UK, and it actually got off to a half decent start, and then it collapsed within like 5 years.
Yeah, but how do you fight with the BTCC in England?
Yeah,
nothing else except F1, right?
I mean, it's got easier. It's easier than it used to be, but yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
huge. Yeah,
it used to be huge back in the days of
the Primaras and stuff. The Alphas. So it's what's his name? There was
Tarquini. Yeah, it's Tarquini. Yeah.
You had Reed. You had Tiff Needell. Tiff Needell was the BTCC driver. You had... Nope, I've gone blank. I remember the cars, but the drivers not so much.
Yeah, there's a few really quick guys in there for a while. They had Blundell in there for a while.
Mm-hmm. We're on the white flag also, by the way, while we were doing that. So Trent has taken the white flag and he is halfway around the course.
Yeah, he's driven absolutely splendidly, hasn't he?
3 seconds a gap now. Wow, he really rocketed away, didn't he?
And his best isn't that much better than Sam Ewers. It's just relentless consistency. Like, he's consistently low 51s, whereas Sam Ewers every so often is popping out to the high 51s or mid 51s, and Luke Turner at his best is getting into the low 51s. It's just been relentless in that Aston Martin. It'd be interesting to see if we had more Aston Martins, if that is the best car around here, because we just don't know, because it's Trent Lavis who is one of the best drivers, but he's the only other Aston Martin is Brendan Whittaker, and Brendan Whittaker knocked himself out of the race. So yes, we don't really know. But there he is, taking the checkered flag. Congratulations to Trent Lavis. Absolutely fantastic race. Absolutely peerless. Sammy were the closest thing to a P he had all race. 3.5 seconds behind. So comfortable victory for Trent Lavis, and Luke Turner is going to finish in third. on his wheel, where he uses his hand for the accelerator, but he still uses his foot for the brakes. So definitely not an Xbox controller. Then Glenn said Riddell will finish in 4th place with Gary Cousins behind him. A bit close between Cousins, Cohen and King. They had a good battle all the way along. Cousins wins out 5th, Cohen in 6th, King in 7th. Then it's Paul Wood way behind in 8th. Then Adam Lavis recovers to 9th spot. He'll be wondering what could have happened without that contact. And David Christensen finishes where he started in 10th position. He says before they'll actually cross the line because some of the gaps are so huge. I figure if I read all the names out of those that are still racing, then I can't curse anybody. You know. Props go to Dale Sharp and Robert McGrath for being 2 of the biggest movers. Robert McGrath up 7 spots from 21st to 14th, and Dale Sharp up from 17th to 11th. Most of the other big movers were going backwards, except for Paul Wood, who went up 5 positions from 13th to 8th. And we have been joined in the commentary box by the runaway victor, Trent Lavis. Trent, what is the secret to your relentless pace around here?
I don't know about relentless. Sam had me honest for most of that race there. I wasn't backing off at all. He was keeping me at arm's length. I'd sort of put in a good lap, and the funny thing is he'd do the same thing behind me. So it was like an accordion of lap times that were sort of like matching each other the whole race, that 1.2 second gap.
And the 2 of you pulled 16.5 seconds ahead of Luke Turner. And we all know how fast Luke Turner is in just about everything he drives. So that's why I describe it as relentless. Because you're right to point out that Sam kept it honest throughout the whole race, but the 2 of you, just nobody else can get close to you.
Yeah, this is one of those tracks where it's got like this strange groove that you've got to find, and it just takes a bit of patience, I guess, and you can't just drive it like a GT car. You've got to actually drive it. You can't be full throttle everywhere, you can't be braking hard everywhere. You got to just balance the car with the undulation and everything to get the most out of it, and not chew the tyres out too. So I was really conscious there of not ripping that front left tyre to pieces, and I actually managed to change the front left to the pit stop, which made the car feel very strange, but it came good in the end.
Can you just put a bit more meat on it? How did it feel after just changing the one tyre?
It felt like the thing wanted to flip backwards on me the first couple of corners. I turned into turn 1 and the thing just went whoa, and it just almost snapped me backwards. So I had to basically drive it like 50% for a lap and a half, and then the balance sort of came back to me a bit, and I was able to push a bit harder.
Yeah, and then you were able to get the fastest lap of the race on the last lap at 150.7, the only man to break it to the 1 minute 50s, although Sam came very, very close with a 151 dead, pretty much. How did you find the car and track combination?
I was actually fortunate enough to do this same sort of combo in a fixed set series a couple of weeks ago, and learnt a lot. But being able to tweak the setup and make the thing handle and balance a bit better definitely helps. So in that particular series, I had the baseline set up, and I can tell you now the front tyres went off in maybe about 8 laps. So it was good to be able to get the thing wriggling and jiggling a bit to save the fronts, and be able to keep the pace up.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations again on your victory. Absolutely fantastic performance. We'll move over to talk to your main challenger for the race, Sam Noir. Sam, 3.6 seconds behind Trent, 12.9 ahead of Luke Turner. How do you feel after that one? Are you happy with second place?
Yes and no. Never happy with second. We're all here to win, obviously, but absolutely no shame in finishing second to Trent Lavis. He's an absolute weapon in the GT4s, in particular the Aston. So yeah, anytime you've finished within the side of him is a good result at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. When you finish out of sight of the guy in third, you know it's been a half decent race. Was there any point where you harboured hope of being able to wheel him in? Or did you always think he had just about got the edge on you?
There was a slight chance there on lap 1 where he went a little bit wide. I thought, oh, here we go, might be a chance here, and because he never gives you too many chances, he just doesn't make any mistakes. So yeah, we tried to hang it around the outside there, but there was just no point, and so yeah, just sort of decided to tuck in behind and just see if we could keep up with him. As Trent just said, you know, the track's pretty brutal on that front left, so I just wanted to sort of stay in his draft if I could, make sure, you know, just keep pushing and see if I could look after my tyres and see if we had anything left at the end to mount a challenge. But yeah, not to be. He was just too quick, and then we were on the 0x there as well early on, so yeah, after the pit stop, when I came out about 2 or 3 seconds behind him, I just thought, oh well, we'll just make sure that we get the 0x bonus points and move on to next week.
Yeah, he did a good job of that in the end.
That wide run on lap 1 gave me my only 1x of the entire race. So was it the third corner? So bloody balls up for me, but still a good race nonetheless.
Oh yeah, how horrid! I got a 1x, but I won.
I was trying my best to stay off the bloody outside of the track. I almost bombed the last corner about 3 or 4 times. So Sam's saying I don't make mistakes. I made millions of mistakes in that race. I just managed to. I think we both made mistakes at exactly the same time because the lap times was fluctuating half a second there in the middle, and the gap was exactly 1.2 for like 10 laps straight. It's pretty cool.
How did the two of you approach Portimão? Because that's a really tricky corner with the blind entry. Was there a trick to get around there for the two of you?
For me, I was doing a little bit of a lift and coast just to get the car to settle over the crest without lurching too much. It seems to help the thing pull up, and I was able to be pretty consistent through there.
Yeah, tried to lift and coast as well. I was probably my most inconsistent corner. I reckon I only hooked it up about once or twice, but when you do hook it up and you get it right, yeah, God, it feels good. But yeah, it just was too inconsistent in there tonight.
Yeah, when you get onto the throttle nice and early and then you couldn't swing down the hill and you just got it right and don't have to lift back off. Oh, yeah, it's a great feeling.
The groove's really weird. It's like narrow but not kind of thing. And you can pinch yourself and then you can run yourself wide in the exit, and the exit curve is greasy as heck. And it's cool. It's a bloody cool corner, but Jesus, it's tough.
Yeah, this is Portimão for those of you that are not familiar with what we're talking about. So you go over that hill, it's completely blind and there's a bit of a kink there. So you've got to turn right a little bit, but you don't really need to turn right for what I'd call the actual corner, if that makes sense. And then as you turn right for the actual corner, it's downhill, which pushes your car a bit wider. And often you've compromised yourself a bit narrow because you've turned for the kink a little bit early. It's just so hard to be consistent through there. So it's one of the main places around the track to gain or lose time, which is why I wanted to pick their brains, and hopefully if you're the GT4 drivers listening have learned something. Maybe they were trying to carry too much speed through there, and lifting and keeping it settled is actually the key to good pace through there. Yeah, so Sam, you've been running towards the top of the GT4s for a few seasons now. Is this the season where you're gonna put it together and really challenge for the championship and perhaps take it?
I hope so. We'll see how we go. I've been sort of in and out of the GT4s. It's been pretty rare that I've been able to contest a full season up till now, but yeah, definitely making it a priority this season. But yeah, still lots of competition out there. Obviously Lukey Turner, super duper quick, probably fortunate that he can't use his right foot at the moment. I don't know how he's able to go as fast as he can just using the paddles for a throttle. That's yeah, lucky there's not bonus points or something up for that. There probably should be, because how he manages to go that quick is quite incredible. So yeah, lots of competition out there. Love the GT4s on the Wednesday night now that they're in the feature category as well. So yeah, we'll do our best and see where we end up at the end of the season.
Yeah, fantastic. Congratulations and best of luck to you for the rest of your racing in GSRC this week.
Yes, thanks, Liam.
And Luke Turner, we'll move over to yourself. If you had your right foot, do you think you could have kept pace with Lavis Simura today?
Oh, fucking use that as an excuse. I think it's the opposite to last week. Last week I was well prepared. I know the Nordschleife from the back of my hand. But yeah, I don't know this track, and I thought I was in for a bit of struggle street tonight with the BMW, and so pretty much the way it went in quali is how it went into race. Trent just smoked us, and so did Sam really. They were both in a different league, and consistently were about half a second quicker than me. Yeah. So I knew, even before I showed up tonight, I knew it was going to be struggle street with the BMW tonight, and I just wasn't prepared, to be honest with you. But those boys were just heaps better, and so I just tried to do a 0x race and make the most of a bad situation.
I mean, you still managed to stay ahead of Glenn Riddell, which means it was still a pretty good race.
Oh, Cito's super quick, but he had less preparation than me. Like, he literally turned up and was learning the track in the practice session. So, and I was learning at the Savo. So he did very well, considering. Yeah. Yep.
This is not a track that is easy to learn. That's actually why I didn't race Super Formula Lights last week, because I felt like I needed to do another practice session just to make sure I wasn't gonna crash or ruin somebody else's race. So I ended up failing. Like, so props to the two of you for running it with minimal practice, just because there are so many blind corners. It's so easy to miss a braking point.
Well, it's interesting. I was just listening to you guys talk about that section at the top of the hill, and that's something I really struggled with the BMW tonight, was to really carry that corner to apex speed. I find the BMW's excellent with bumps and point and shoot, like 90-degree corners. But when you get like those really long, labouring corners, I just couldn't quite get the grip in the front end. And then when I get the car settled at the apex and get ready to get on the gas, it would then want to swap ends on me. So that could be a little bit of set. And I was playing in the practice session with a bit of rake and adding a bit more rake to get a bit more turn. But then that made it really oversteery on exit, and then I'd drop the back end, and then it'd come off the corner a lot better, but then it would understeer in, and I just struggled to get it to work well for me. But I think most of that problem's the nut behind the wheel, not the car.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see what you could do with a bit more practice and a bit more time to get the setup fine-tuned. You can imagine it might be one of those things where if you went back now and went on to him, like, okay, let's see where I could have got it right, you might find it like 3 or 4 laps, but like, there it is. Here we go, and unlock a chunk of time.
I reckon this track would be awesome in a LMDH car. I feel as though it's too big for the smaller horsepower cars, but I reckon it'd be pretty cool in a proto. Just how big and wide and flowing it is. I'd love to come back and try in like the Caddy. That would be fun.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Or the IndyCar.
Oh, yeah, that's another good point. Yeah, agree.
IndyCar would be spectacular around here. All right, thanks for joining us, Luke, and best of luck with the rest of your racing in the GSRC. Will we see you in any other categories this week?
No, I'm struggling with work at the moment. I'm kind of just picking the one series. I saw the other day that I've missed the first few rounds, but I saw the other day I was going to run the championship, and I thought, okay, I'll just stick with GT4 for the moment. So I'm enjoying that. I actually prefer them now to a GT3 car because they find them a bit more enjoyable to drive. So I'll just stick with that.
Yeah. Well, best of luck for GT4s next week.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Congrats, Trent and Sam. Killed it.
And we'll cross on over to the last driver to join us for the evening. That is Kurt Normanson. You've heard his voice a few times this week, and he's back in the booth with us. A difficult race for yourself. Do you want to talk us through what happened?
I think it was just a lack of seat time. I don't know enough of the track in GT4, so I think that accounted for a lot of it. And then putting myself in the fence on lap 6 didn't help.
It doesn't help. Fences don't mesh well with vehicles, I found, after experimenting a few times.
No, it doesn't help when you launch across the curb either.
No, also not good. Yeah,
I got all 4 wheels off the curb at turn 1, so...
Was this your first experience of Portimão?
In the GT4, yes.
Yes.
I just haven't had the time to sit down and drive the GT4 around here. I wanted to do the officials last week, but I was busy with other things, so unfortunately I didn't get the lap time that I wanted to do.
What had you driven around here before?
Mostly just doing testing. I was going to do IMSA stuff with the Protos and the GT3s, but ended up not because they were talking about rain, and I wasn't going to try and learn the track and learn rain at the same time. So,
yeah, fair. Good call.
So now it's just a matter of learning the track for any other cars that want to go here, either end of this season or next season, and for the future.
Yeah, we've had a few of the categories here at the GSRC over the last week or two, so I wouldn't be surprised if you do see it again in the future. I think it's quite a popular track. So well worth learning, also just because it's a fantastic track.
Yeah, I just had a little bit of scroll on the league thing. I think Super 2 goes there later this season, so that'll definitely be some time spent in the seat for that.
And what's next for you in the GSRC?
I was going to race tomorrow night, but I think I need to sit out and work on my Nords racing. Got the 24 hours this weekend, so I need to focus on that.
Yeah, excellent. Well, best of luck for the 24-hour, and hopefully next week the Wednesday night goes a bit better for you.
Yeah, hopefully. Looks like it might be at a track I can actually drive at, so we'll see how we go.
Excellent. Well, we'll be cheering for you from the comments box. Thanks for joining us again. Lovely to chat, and we'll speak to you again soon.
No worries.
And thanks to everybody that has stayed with us throughout the entirety of the broadcast and through the interviews. Your support is very much appreciated, as is the support of our lovely club sponsors. And they include Waste Options, Brayton Non-Alcoholic Cider, Orbic Australia, Lobesy Racing, and Wave Australia, and there is an affiliate link in the Discord, please use it, and Flash Graphics. Thank you very much for joining us. Until we see you again, take care and race hard.